Pink Diamond is without a doubt not only one of the most controversial characters in Steven Universe, but in all of animation, period. Which is completely by design. Living a double life as one of the 4 gem matriarchs and as the head of the Crystal Gems, Rose Quartz. A lot of people find it hard to view this character in a super positive light, both in and out of the show. However, as time passes and the audience matures, more people have come around to appreciate Pink and all the nuances that make her who she is. A common sentiment being that fans are so harsh on her because we witnessed her character development in reverse. Getting introduced to her as the kind yet fearless leader Rose Quartz, a character whose arc has already crossed the finish line, only for the show to slowly unravel all the layers of her past until we're at square one, leaving us with the bratty, temperamental, and overall mess of a Diamond that's much harder to admire, but in spite of her faults, is also a little easier to sympathize with. Yeah, just hear me out here. According to Rebecca Sugar, Pink Diamond is a tragic character, the embodiment of self-destruction, someone who never figured out who she really was and thus never truly learned to love herself. And ultimately, she's a cautionary tale for Steven himself, the kind of person he could have become if he didn't figure out who he was or get the help he needed. If you ask me, Pink was crafted to challenge the viewer on the question of if someone should be judged on their past actions. How much goodwill are you willing to give someone before the amount of good they've done seems to be outweighed by the bad, at least on a personal level? And is it fair to apply our human morality to an alien who, for all intents and purposes, was raised on an entirely different system of beliefs? As someone who had a vocal disdain for Pink Diamond when the show finally unveiled the big twist nearly 6 years ago, I wanted to revisit the complex character under a more mature lens, mapping out her arc in chronological order and tackling all the divisive beats it's composed of. I'll also be consulting the top secret visual timeline that Sugar wrote in 2016, which was featured in the second arc book, End of an Era. As although not everything in this chart should be taken as 100% canon, since events like the Diamonds destroying Pink Pearl obviously didn't happen in the show, it still provides insight into Pink Diamond's relationship with the other Diamonds during Era 1, that we only caught glimpses of in animated form. Strap yourselves in as we have a lot to cover in the first of many videos tackling the character writing of Steven Universe. This is Pink Diamond, Development in Reverse. To truly understand Pink Diamond, we have to accept that she was born into toxicity. She emerged alongside the other 3 Diamonds over 20,000 years prior to the start of the series. And although White, Yellow, and Blue seem to have emerged as intended, I still hold the belief that Pink Diamond might have been overcooked. The first defective gem, something that rings true in more ways than one. Although she still towers over most gems, she is tiny compared to the other Diamonds. I mean, just look at her throne on the moon base compared to Yellow Diamonds. Steven and Peridot alone filled up the space in Pink's seat, whereas you'd probably need a fusion to take up room in Yellow's. But the size difference is a surface level observation. What's really telling is the disparity between the Diamonds when it comes to their authority and duties on Homeworld. Yellow took charge of Homeworld's military, Blue oversaw its culture, and White presumably governed Homeworld itself, establishing its identity. Meanwhile, Pink was in charge of practically nothing, tasked with throwing balls that praised the other Diamonds for their achievements. She was treated as nothing more than a glorified mascot. I'm not sure why she would be relegated to this position, unless she didn't come out as intended, or if that's at least the impression that the other Diamonds were under, since we know fuck all about their creators. I also think this would explain why Rose took such great interest in Amethyst. She understood Amethyst the moment she laid eyes on her. Defective or not, the other Diamonds didn't trust Pink Diamond with the same level of responsibility that they had, tending to tune her out most of the time. It didn't help that Pink Diamond was a silly, impulsive goober who was super curious about the world around her, so she would often be disruptive to Yellow, Blue, and White's endeavors. Like the time she begged Blue Diamond to keep these rainbow worms from a kyanite colony, only for the worms to get loose in different palaces, chasing the pearls. Not exactly the sort of thing that inspires confidence. While the Diamonds would indulge in Pink's antics on occasion, playing games and letting her get batches of Gem's silly nicknames, they were also prone to isolating her, going to extreme lengths to do so, like imprisoning her in a tower for unknown increments of time. It could have been for days or even weeks. depriving her of any interaction with her fellow diamonds, her pearl, or any of the gems on Homeworld. They even threatened to take away her pearl, something that only drives home that they view Pink as lesser than them, because you would never hear White entertain the idea of taking away Yellow or Blue's pearls. But on top of that, it goes to show that they recognized Pink Diamond's sought-after companionship. Pink's inferiority complex, her lack of identity, and her job pretty much amounting to gassing up others caused her to deviate from the other diamonds in a pretty significant way. Whereas Gemkind carries a deep admiration for the diamonds and seeks after their validation, Pink Diamond turns the tables by having a deep admiration for all the gems surrounding her. I mean, the gems still blindly worship Pink, but they didn't have to bend over backwards for her approval. She found every gem to be unique and worthy of praise, because to her, at least they're doing something, while she wasn't allowed to do anything. Yet her admiration definitely crossed into worship territory, which didn't really click with the gems of Homeworld because they viewed her as a deity. They couldn't register that one of their gods felt as if they were superior. And I think this would be a great time to pull out a quote from Rebecca Sugar. One thing I find really interesting is that the way she idolized everyone around her was very sincere. She thought everyone around her was so much better than she was, so people would be drawn to her. Gems would be drawn to her. And I don't know if they would necessarily realize that she was worshiping them, which was compounding her own sadness at the feeling that she couldn't connect with them. It was a tragedy. While Pink celebrated each gem for their own attributes and unique personalities, it was hard for any of them to see her as someone beyond a diamond. Something that only piled onto Pink's identity crisis and infinite sadness, because she had no idea what being a diamond truly meant. White, yellow, and blue wouldn't allow her to understand what it meant. And eventually, she got tired of it. And while Pink bottled everything up and put on a smile when the diamonds were around, behind closed doors, she was absolutely miserable. She was desperate for attention and approval that she was never going to get, especially from White Diamond. Her pearl being the only one who witnessed her private outburst and understood how deeply unhappy Pink Diamond was. The cycle of need and neglect set Pink Diamond apart from the other diamonds in a pretty significant way. Whereas White, Yellow, and Blue have a superiority complex, designing their empire to constantly reaffirm the belief that they're above the rest of Gemkind, Pink Diamond had an inferiority complex, completely insecure in herself, believing she doesn't live up to the hype of the other diamonds. Whenever she attempted to be herself, 9 out of 10 times, she was ignored or corrected. And when she tried to take on more responsibility and behave like the other diamonds, they denied her efforts and still wouldn't give her the time of day. She was in a lose-lose situation. The other diamonds treated her as a decoration more than an equal. White's tasked with establishing Homeworld's identity, so by refusing to give Pink Diamond any sort of positive reinforcement, any sort of acknowledgement or validation, she was actively denying her any sort of identity. Pink didn't know who she was, just that she was bad news. Wait, hold on. It's the signal from Homeworld. They want to thank Manscaped for sponsoring today's video.
Fellow Earthlings, did you know that one human male every hour, every day is diagnosed with testicular cancer? In fact, testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer amongst men ages 15 to 35. April is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month on your planet, which is why we wanted to take a second to talk about men's health issues that are important to your species. Being proactive with your health is key, such as having screenings that can detect cancer in your body before any symptoms show up. Treatment works best when you catch it early.
With men's health and hygiene in mind, Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to help you take care of your precious gems. I already use Manscaped products daily to trim and maintain the region below the waist, and it is amazing! Manscaped sent me the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Trimmer, which is not only cordless, but waterproof.
The trimmer features dual skin-safe blade heads, now accompanied with an updated trimmer blade and an interchangeable foil blade for enhanced performance. The new trimmer blade features longer, wider, and rounded teeth that cut through hair with ease. It's tough on human hair, yet incredibly gentle on the skin.
No more sitting in front of the mirror for a half hour going through endless passes. It's all about getting it right on the first try.
Equipped with a powerful LED light, you can shave with confidence navigating through precarious regions.
I like your big words. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra also features a constant RPM motor. Even as your battery begins to wane, you won't experience any dip in performance. And with up to 60 minutes of runtime on a single charge, this device is ready to get you right before date night. And you can bring this trimmer wherever you go, thanks to its wireless charging capabilities and travel lock feature.
Together, Manscaped and the Testicular Cancer Society are committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men ages 15 to 35, and giving support for fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer. And Manscaped will be donating $50,000 to the Testicular Cancer Society.
You can perform single routine self-checks at home while enjoying the Manscaped products you use every day, like the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Body Trimmer. Visit manscaped.com/TCS to learn how to check yourself for early signs of cancer, or share their hilarious educational check yourself video to help save lives and balls. As always, you can use my promo code Roundtable for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Join the Manscaped movement, and don't forget to take care of your pair. Something that was heavily implied in the Era 3 arc and fully spelled out in the end of an Era art book is that the Diamonds repressed Pink because her eccentric behavior was seen as a threat to homeworld status quo. They were afraid of her influence, especially White Diamond. Pink is pure want, impulse, desire. She's infectious. She is the flip side of White. She can bring out a gem's hidden personality, their deepest wants. This isn't necessarily a diamond power. She has a handful of diamond powers, both destructive and constructive, but she has this power in a very human sense. She is an enabler and very manipulative when it comes to getting what she wants. So when what she wants is to get closer to someone, her intensity, her sincerity opens them up and draws them in. White and Pink were always clashing. The Diamond Body repressed Pink's wants, as directed by White, the self-critical conscious. Pink's shield made it impossible for White to override Pink's identity, so she had to find other ways to repress her. Pink couldn't keep her feelings of inadequacy bottled up forever, and it was only a matter of time before she would express her discontentment in the form of pure, unbridled rage. Like the time Pink Diamond found her way to Yellow Diamond's base on a jungle moon. Pink desperately tried to get her fellow Diamond's attention as Yellow was busy scolding Gems who were hesitant about invading a planet due to the organic life that inhabited it. While Yellow tried to tune Pink out as usual, Pink wasn't settling for the silent treatment this time around. She forces herself in front of Yellow's face, and in a desperate attempt to prove that she's capable of carrying more responsibility, she tries to take over the control panel and contact the Nephrite leading the fleet, demonstrating that she does in fact have no idea what she's doing. But of course she didn't. The Diamonds don't bother teaching her anything, which makes this conversation really frustrating to watch. Pink trying to stand up for herself, only to deepen the rift between her and Yellow. Pink asserts that she's just as important as the other Diamonds, and deserves to wield the same amount of power they do. An army? A colony? You name it. Yet Yellow Diamond retorts that if Pink is just as important, then why doesn't she act like it? Causing Pink Diamond to storm off and break a window in the base, shattering her own reflection. While I sympathize with Pink Diamond's frustrations in this scene, it's hard for me to view Yellow in an equally favorable light. Yes, it is annoying to have what's essentially a child disrupt your work, but Yellow's ignoring how Pink got to this point and her contributions to such. If Pink is the child in the situation, then the Diamonds are real shitty parents. Obviously, the beginning of Pink's story mirrors Steven's in a lot of ways. It's even called out in the show. But a major difference between the two is that the Crystal Gems provided Steven with an actual support system. They very much treated him like family. And on top of that, the Gems actually gave Steven a chance to prove himself on multiple occasions. Missions that were later revealed to be tests, in the sense that they wanted to see if he was ready to be a Crystal Gem. Even though he fumbled those tests and had to prove himself in other ways, the Gems still reaffirmed his worth and never gave up on him. Pink was caught in the exact opposite situation. She was never given a chance to prove her worth.
that she was ready to handle more.
And the diamonds never gave her any reassurance, chastising her a majority of the time. They constantly stunt her growth, yet condemn her for being immature. Pink just wants to be recognized as a diamond and be on equal footing with her fellow matriarchs, while the other diamonds just want her to pipe down and play the small role they allotted to her, something she would soon get a grasp of, if only to deceive them. Between Pink walking away from Yellow before punching the window and already being ignored by her fellow leaders, it's inferred that Pink did her best to hide her outbursts from the other diamonds. But one day she would snap and go too far. After being the only witness to Pink Diamond's destructive power, her pearl would one day get caught in the crossfire, as Pink Diamond was fuming over the diamond's refusal to give her a colony, presumably unleashing a scream that struck her pearl. Pink Pearl's physical form sustaining permanent damage on the left side of her face as a result. It's greatly implied that due to it being permanent, the scarring is a sign of psychological damage as opposed to the gem itself being injured. Trauma from having her own diamond hurt her, the person she was closest to. Pink Pearl clarified in future that it was an accident, and based off everything we know about this destructive power, I'm inclined to believe that this is true. Especially since it's implied that Steven's burst of power in volleyball is the same ability that cost volleyball her eye. I really don't think Pink was using her pearl as a stress ball, but it does illustrate a lack of self-awareness. Clearly the diamonds were alarmed by this development, and furthermore, I suspect they were worried about how their gems would react if word got out that the most lovable diamond could cause destruction like this. Although, given their solution, I think Pink might have told the diamonds that they were playing as opposed to what really happened. White Diamond would go on to adopt Pink Pearl by taking control of her, maybe to give off the impression that White herself damaged Pink Pearl as a form of discipline. And White would then provide Pink Diamond with our pearl, a more sensible pearl according to the visual timeline, and Spinel would be created to serve as a playmate in a confined area. I think the idea was that by separating work and leisure into two separate gems, Pink Diamond would be focused on her duties as a diamond while having her own source of entertainment in a location removed from the rest of Homeworld, so she wouldn't disrupt the diamonds or create a scene around the Homeworld gems, basically knocking out two birds with one stone. Not to mention, palling around with your pearl probably wasn't a good look for a diamond. But unfortunately for White, Yellow, and Blue, this wouldn't go down the way they wanted, as Pink Diamond would struggle to connect with these two for completely opposite reasons. And when she did finally make a connection with one of them, it changed everything. Alright, before we dive into this next bit, I gotta make it clear that a huge part of Pink Diamond's character is that she doesn't know how much she means to people, and I think no one represents this fact better than Spinel. And make no mistake, that's not an excuse for what Pink did, it's just an explanation. It's okay to have those. To pull another sugar quote from End of an Era, White is so sure she's right that she's actually profoundly wrong. Yellow is so sure that she is strong that she's actually profoundly weak. Blue Diamond is so sure that she's sensitive that she's actually profoundly insensitive. And Pink Diamond is so sure that she's powerless, but she's actually profoundly powerful. So much so that she devastates people's lives without understanding it because she thinks she has no real power or sway. With this in mind, why did Pink Diamond struggle to connect with Spinel? Sure, Pink probably wasn't thrilled to get a taste of her own medicine, having a little pink lady follow her around everywhere, constantly wanting to play and trying to grab her attention. And I've said years ago that Pink had trouble accepting Spinel's presence because she was a blatant replacement for her only real friend. So the relationship felt very insincere. But I also think something else was going on, that Spinel unintentionally made Pink feel horrible about herself. We established Pink is insecure and feels that she lacks an identity. She enjoys celebrating other gems way more than having gems celebrate her. Yet Spinel was made for Pink's companionship in particular. She's all about Pink. And unlike the other Homeworld gems who could only admire her from afar, Spinel is all up in her face, wanting to revere Pink not because she's a diamond, but because of her unique quirks and personality. Which means her mere presence forced Pink to think about herself, and it made her really uncomfortable. Other gems may want validation from the diamonds, but their duties aren't directly tied to them. Spinel's one and only duty is Pink Diamond, and Pink can't process that the gem would be this into her once they get to know her up close and personal. That they would be so enamored by her. Because to herself, she's nothing. Does that justify the abandonment? Nope. But it makes sense as to why there was friction here. Pink probably tolerated Spinel for as long as she did, because according to the visual timeline, this was around the time she was keeping secrets and trying to change how the Diamonds perceived her. And eventually, it worked! The Diamonds awarded her growth with a colony. Or at least, that's the case on a surface level. In reality, White Diamond had little faith that Pink had really changed, and provided her with a colony only to prove that it's destined to fail. God, what a bitch! Nevertheless, once Pink got her colony and had an excuse to be away from Homeworld and the garden, she ditched Spinel. Now here's the thing, a lot of people think that this little game of hide and seek was Pink's way of commanding Spinel to stay here, and that she knew Spinel would stay in place for thousands of years. Because if a diamond commands something, that gem has to obey orders. Like, it's literally in their programming. However, that's only the case for Pearl. Let's whip out a quote from storyboarder turned director Joe Johnston, circa 2018. Because our Pearl was made for Pink Diamond, she must follow her orders. Rose did not have this power or control over anyone else, and it's only because Pearl was made for her that Pink/Rose had this power over her. Pink is a diamond, she could order around lots of gems, but they follow because of hierarchy, not because the diamonds are mind controlling them. Is this making sense? I'm trying to clear this up for everybody, but people still seem confused. Now you could argue because Spinel was also made for Pink Diamond that she's under similar conditions, but Joe answered this once the movie was long underway, so he had to have had Spinel in mind when writing this answer. And he would have at least alluded to her if this was the case. The crew was foreshadowing for years. And B, pearls are servants. It makes sense they have to obey their diamond's orders. Spinel was a jester. Her duty was to entertain, which in itself may require some improvisation, aka she wouldn't be forced to obey orders. But we're getting into semantics. I just no longer subscribe to the idea that Pink's intent was to leave this gem rotting in place. Pink ditched Spinel because just like with everyone else, she didn't know what she meant to Spinel. She thought Spinel would eventually get bored and leave, not bothering to even search for Pink. Of course she was wrong, and Spinel would stay in place for thousands of years, until Steven indirectly hit her with the double whammy of, ding dong, the bitch is dead, and she made tons of friends who weren't you, loser. Poor Spinel. I feel so bad for her. On the other end of this struggling to connect spectrum is of course Pearl, who couldn't connect with Pink Diamond because she was too intimidated by her to even strike conversation, remaining at an arm's length and barely even making eye contact with her. Whether if it was the fear of winding up like Peak Pearl, being under enormous expectations from the Diamonds, or just being way too shy to make conversation, Pearl was keeping this relationship strictly professional. This dynamic would continue into Pink getting her first and only colony, the Earth, which is a planet a lot of Homeworld gems look down upon throughout the series. While a lot of that has to do with Homeworld's grudge towards the crystal gems, a part of me wonders if White assigned the Earth to Pink in particular because in her eyes, it was a nothing planet. Part of the reason why I suspect this is because Invader Zim is one of Rebecca Sugar's favorite cartoons. Zim's whole mission is to conquer Earth to impress the almighty tallest, even though they only assign the Earth to Zim because it's useless to them. So even if he conquered it, they wouldn't care. And they already didn't have faith in Zim, like how White assumed Pink's colony would fail. I don't know, just some food for thought. I love how Pink Diamond wanted a colony so bad, yet when she finally gets what she's been fighting for, she's bored. The grass is always much greener on the other side, my friends. Really? She wants to be more hands-on with the colony, but she can't due to her status as a diamond. She isn't even allowed to go down to the surface and witness the emergence of gems in the prime kindergarten. So Pearl, scrambling to problem solve and make a good impression on her diamond, gives Pink an idea that not only alters their relationship, but the rest of their lives moving forward.
One of the things I really wanted to talk about at the time is I'm a son of immigrants. I think a lot of immigrant families have an experience of maybe someone leaving the family, going to a new country, and reinventing themselves. And it's something that has definitely happened in my family. And my brother he went off and he started a new life and he tried to reinvent himself as a new person. That was kind of something that we wanted to talk about. The idea of, what happens when you try to escape that baggage by becoming a new person.
Pink begins to masquerade as a rose quartz gem in order to wander freely on Earth behind blue and yellow's backs. And in doing this, she becomes infatuated with the planet pretty much immediately, defying the expectations of her gems by welcoming them into the world with a joyous embrace instead of commanding them to get to work.
Welcome to Earth. That is the first and nicest thing anyone has ever said to me.
It starts with the kindergarten, but it's when she's aimlessly exploring the forest that Pink really falls in love with the Earth. And it tracks that this is what would do it for her. She already had the garden by this point, so we know she already had an affinity for plants and flowers. I imagine she was eager to pick flowers and frolic in the green areas of various homeworld colonies, so long as she was under supervision. She just never knew an entire planet could be like this because she's only been on colonies and moon bases once colonization was already underway. She never got to witness their untampered beauty. And she may not have realized it yet, but organic life has always been her jam. She's always been fascinated with things that were capable of growing and changing, as those were things she was never allowed to do. At least until the rose quartz persona came into the picture. Getting a chance to actually be on Earth enabled Pink to not only discover different forms of life, but also discover herself for the very first time. She was finally allowed to exist and make her own decisions. She got to do what she liked and not what the diamonds expected of her, even if only for a little while. However, she's immediately brought back to reality when she encounters a human family gathering their own resources. She realizes that sentient beings native to the planet rely on the same resources that Homeworld needs to complete colonization, and that by turning Earth into a colony, not only is she getting rid of the nature she adores, she's making it inhospitable for human beings. She puts it perfectly.
We're taking life and leaving nothing behind.
The guilt from this devastating realization is something that would plague Rose and Pearl for pretty much the rest of their lives.
Pearl and Rose, everything they've done is because of this immense guilt.
She was ready to put an end to this cruelty, but as we all know, that is easier said than done when you're the littlest diamond. There's a lot of disturbing aspects to Homeworld's attempted colonization of Earth, but the zoo definitely takes the cake for many. According to Pearl, Pink Diamond expressed concern towards organic life on Earth, as humans were unlike anything else they've encountered. She wanted to ensure their continued existence and was hoping that this plea would convince the other diamonds to call off the invasion. Instead, Yellow and Blue compromised and created the zoo, throwing random humans in captivity as a means of preservation. And as Pearl says in the episode Adventures in Light Distortion, they had no way of reaching the humans after the war. Something that fans have contested, as Pink's ship lied dormant on Earth for thousands of years. But let's be real here. If she activated the ship to try and rescue the humans, the diamonds would have been alerted that the ship was active. How do you think Yellow knew that Blue went back to the zoo and that will be all? It would have tipped them off that Pink was alive, or at least that someone was operating her ship, but I'm pretty sure only diamonds can activate their own vessels. That being said, Pink Diamond did aid the Zoomans to the best of her ability before staging her shattering. The series makes it clear that Pink's healing power was exclusive to her. It's her constructive diamond power, similar to Yellow's ability to fix a gem's physical form and Blue's ability to uplift others. That's why the Rebel Rose Quartz stood out to Homeworld. She had the ability to heal gems unlike the other Rose Quartzes. With that in mind, J10 mentions a rumor that long ago, after a Zooman was injured, a pink gem entered the facility and tended to their wounds. There's literally no one else this could have been but Pink, assuming the form of Rose Quartz, to blend in and keep an eye on the humans, ensuring they weren't being harmed or mistreated. Pink felt horrible about the predicament she'd landed these Zoomans in, and tried to absolve herself of said guilt by being as hands-on as she possibly could be without getting into trouble. What happened to these people is beyond tragic, but Pink didn't just ignore them, and the blame definitely falls on Blue and Yellow. Once it became clear that the Diamonds weren't going to leave Earth alone at Pink's request, that her status and influence meant nothing to them, she decided that Rose Quartz would start getting into some shit, causing a scene at the kindergarten where she attempted to empower the freshly emerged Quartz soldiers into defecting from Homeworld and defending the Earth. And before she knew it, she had a rebel faction opposing the Great Diamond Authority, dubbed the Crystal Gems, because I guess Homeworld classified the galaxy Earth was in as the Crystal System. At first, Rose just wanted to scare off Homeworld. She nor her Crystal Gems were actually fighting for themselves. But that all changed when Ruby and Sapphire fused and brought Garnet into this world. Seeing cross-gem fusion blew Rose's mind. She wanted to know everything there was to know about Garnet. And more importantly, in this context, Garnet made her realize that she truly wasn't alone. She identified with her struggles and complicated feelings.
Why am I so sure that I'd rather be this than everything I was supposed to be?
Rose realized that this planet truly brings out the best in gems, allowing them to break away from the status quo and embrace their deepest desires. The Crystal Gems were no longer fighting solely for Earth. They were fighting for their own independence. Yet, there's still an underlying tragedy of Rose Quartz and the Crystal Gems. Despite carving out her own identity, Rose still lacked self-worth. She ensured the Crystal Gems had this horrific view about Pink Diamond, painting herself out to be cruel and riddled with malicious intent, fabricating lies about herself that was probably a reflection of how she really felt. She turned her self-loathing into war propaganda. That's messed up, man! She kind of fell into a trap, and in many ways, she was back where she started. To the Crystal Gems, Rose was their savior, the gem who took a stand and liberated others so that they could live their truth. She was revering gems who have a blind obedience to her, who can't fathom that their leader sees herself as beneath them, just like when she was Pink Diamond. The gems may not have realized it, but they had a very complicated dynamic with their leader, especially Pearl. Alright, the messiest romance in Steven Universe. Let's go! Rose and Pearl's relationship is a huge point of contention amongst fans, but this is really where I think a lot of us, myself included, are projecting human morality and customs onto aliens who are discovering and sorting through all of these feelings for the very first time. That said, I don't think Pearl was necessarily being strung along by Rose. I think a lot of people have the understanding that Pearl was head over heels for Rose, while Rose just kinda tiptoed around defining the relationship, and that Pearl was basically the side chick. But the Crewniverse reiterated multiple times throughout the show's run that this interpretation is wrong. I believe it's indisputable that Rose did love Pearl. Both of them just didn't fully comprehend the concept of a romantic relationship, or monogamy. So yeah, Rose was messing around with humans throughout the thousands of years she resided on Earth, and Pearl was never really worried because humans live significantly shorter lives compared to nigh-immortal gems. And she knew that what she had with Rose was special, and it truly was. In Pearl's eyes, these were just short little flings that were a part of Rose's fun on Earth. It wasn't until Greg came into the picture that she felt challenged for the very first time. Again, Rose does not know how much she means to the people around her, so she didn't know that eventual relationship would cause Pearl to be in so much turmoil. Pearl failed to communicate those feelings. With that in mind, I do want to unpack that while both sides of Rose adored Pearl, Pearl was only in love with Rose and not Pink Diamond, which is a very important distinction.
Pearl is Alfred if Alfred were in love with Batman, but not Bruce Wayne. That's an important distinction.
That is an important distinction.
She loves Batman.
She loves Batman.
Pearl is falling in love. Pink, as Rose, is intoxicating. She's free somehow. They both are when they are on Earth. Pearl loved Rose because she made her feel like she was everything. Because to Rose, she was! Rose viewed her as a superior. Pearl enabled Rose to do so many things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. Together, they were able to live out their greatest fantasy.
Rose says, my Pearl to Pearl. No one calls their Pearl my Pearl. People only say that they're superiors. So there's actually a lot more going on in that scene.
Still, the love they had for each other was just as toxic as it was empowering. In spite of praising each other, both of them still struggled with self-worth, and that was only amplified by their relationship. Pearl continuously put her life on the line to protect Rose in the battlefield, and Rose struggled to get Pearl to claim true independence. Pearl refused to leave her side, and she couldn't comprehend the intent behind Rose's praise. They were incapable of escaping the roles they were made for. Pearl and Rose's relationship honestly deserves its own video, but for now, let's put a pin in this and talk about the bubbling of bismuth. To me, this is by far the worst thing Rose did in this series. Rose constantly made out Pink Diamond to be this big bad villain who ruins everything she comes into contact with. Yet she's surprised that bismuth, the blacksmith who makes weapons, created something that could shatter the diamonds? You're the one who radicalized her! Think, Rose! I kinda think that the bismuth debacle highlights Pink's conflicted feelings towards not just herself, but the other diamonds. Yeah, she obviously doesn't want bismuth to shatter her, but she also doesn't necessarily want to kill Yellow, Blue, or even White due to their family-esque connection. She just wants everyone to leave each other alone. Yet that doesn't absolve her of handling the situation in the worst way possible. Knowing her facade and lies were catching up to her, she bubbled bismuth, someone who unabashedly loved her, and lied about her whereabouts to just avoid dealing with it? It is insanely shitty.
Oh my gosh, I mean, bismuth adored Rose.
Yeah.
Loved Rose.
And she was willing to do
she would have done
anything
for Rose. And she did.
For Rose specifically.
She did the thing that Rose definitely wanted the most.
Yeah.
And then she was upset about it. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, bismuth doesn't get, not only does bismuth not get to understand why, none of her friends do either.
Exactly.
And the whole thing is just swept under the rug. I mean, this is really...
Yeah.
like, we can, it's one thing to be like, oh, Jasper hates rose quartz, we fought in the war.
Mm-hmm.
This is someone who idolized Rose.
Yeah.
And then was totally, can I say screwed over?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sort of...
You know what the worst thing about it is? That she still talks about how great she is.
I know, and she still loves...
She still talks about how great she is.
Rose, yeah. It's really tragic.
She still made that difference in Bismuth's life.
I really don't believe there's a good excuse for hiding Bismuth's fate from her friends. In fact, I feel like Pearl would have backed up Rose and provided some sound reasoning on why shattering the diamonds would have just perpetuated the cycle of violence. Bubbling bismuth was absolutely Rose giving in to the worst parts of herself. The parts that reminded her of the other diamonds. The parts that she tried to leave behind on Homeworld. Stripping a gem of their freedom because they became an inconvenience to her, practically erasing them from existence. Which begs the question, what happens when the two sides of her life become an inconvenience to each other? What happens when Pink Diamond gets in the way of Rose Quartz? After Blue and Yellow made it clear that the Crystal Gem Rebellion wasn't enough to deter Homeworld from Earth, and that as long as Pink existed, the colony will be completed, the littlest Diamond only had one more stunt up her sleeve, removing herself from the equation entirely, staging her shattering with the aid of Pearl to make it seem like Pink Diamond was slain by Rose Quartz. In the process, she made Pearl vow to never tell anyone about what transpired. No one can know that Rose Quartz is actually Pink Diamond. Everything about this is really the epitome of what we've talked about today. Rose was short-sighted, impulsive, and selfish. Not because she thought highly of herself, but because after everything she's been through, she still lacked self-worth. She never, for a single second, considered how her actions would impact others because she thought she meant very little to those around her. That she never stopped being that glorified mascot on Homeworld. She was so desperate for Homeworld to fuck off and leave the planet that she never stopped to consider what would happen afterwards. She wasn't thinking about the impact that keeping the truth about her identity secret would have on the gems if they somehow ever found out. How it would feel to learn that their cause was spawned by a massive lie. She didn't think about the toll it would have on Pearl, because why would she be thinking about that when she could be thinking about all the fun they would have after the war is over? She didn't think that Garnet would never ask questions because she told her to. She doesn't think she's shit. She never thought that Garnet would feel betrayed because the only thing she could think about was how happy Garnet would be to just exist. And that in itself is a great example of how selfish Pink can be even when her intentions are good. She just assumed that the good outweighed the bad. She denied the gems the right to ever know what really happened with her because she believed that they just wanted to live in bliss. And again, she made herself out to be the worst person on Earth. So it makes sense she never planned on breaking the news to the gems. She didn't think the diamonds would care about what happened to her, that they would be distraught over her apparent death, nor would they be so angry in their grief that they would retaliate with the corruption blast. She thought she was just an inconvenience to them. and the only way she knows how to deal with inconveniences is to pretend they're not there. Because that's what they taught her. She was so laser focused on living in the moment and leaving the past behind that consequences were a foreign concept to her. And sure enough, consequences gave her a good smack in the head. In the aftermath of the corruption attack and the Gem War as a whole, Rose and Pearl were racked with immense guilt, knowing that although the diamonds finally left the planet alone, thousands of gems from both sides of the war now wander this planet in an unrecognizable state, ensnared by trauma. Lost, confused, and angry, these cryptid gems exist in a state of total agony. Rose attempted to heal various cryptid gems on multiple occasions, but without the other 3 diamonds, it was a hopeless endeavor. So she fell back on old habits. Capture and bubble all the cryptid gems, and keep them locked away in the temple. Out of sight, out of mind. But at least this way, the cryptid gems no longer have to suffer. And you know, at least they kept them frozen in time instead of trying to tame them like Jasper, or keep them as a pet like Steven in Monster Buddies. That being said, keeping Lapis in the mirror was pretty messed up. It seems like Rose kinda stagnated for a few thousand years post-Gem War, spending most of her days traversing the Earth, sightseeing, mingling with humans, and protecting them from the cryptid gems they were hunting. However, I do want to highlight her relationship with everyone's favorite superpowered feline, Lion. As we know, Rose had a pack of lions that accompanied her in the desert. Evidently, Rose would often revisit her ship and use the area around it to store various artifacts and treasures. Bismuth's gem was probably kept here until Rose moved her to Lion's Mane. Judging by how Steven resurrected Lars, the lion we know and love must have been the only one in the pack to have died of unnatural causes, and Rose saved him, bringing him back to life, which I think showcases Rose's attachment to the planet and how she can be selfish in a selfless way. She believes all life is worth protecting, and although she had like 5 other lions under her wing, she still refused to let go of this one, especially when he was about to pass before his time. She gave him another shot at life, one that never really ends. Yet, I think this reveals how Rose really can't comprehend death, as it's something that breaks this fantasy she cultivated for herself. She wanted to exist in this paradise with her friends for, well, ever, without a single hint of change. And while the second chance at life was sweet, and I'm not trying to spin it in a negative light, she did kinda drag Lion into that forever fantasy against his will. Like, don't get me wrong, bro is big chillin'. I'm not saying that he craves the sweet release of death. Just that Rose, who was slowly starting to crave the human experience, didn't want to accept that letting go is a part of that experience. That there's beauty in death, and that having a finite amount of time on this planet makes it all the more special. As for why she kept Lion a secret from Pearl, I think that was just another instance of her failing to take into account how her actions impact other people. Her lions were near her ship. She probably didn't want Pearl to be reminded of Homeworld, and she probably didn't think that Pearl would find lions all that interesting. And she probably went to her ship to just reflect and be on her own. She found solitude here, but yet it still must have made her really sad, having this piece of Homeworld remain on Earth, reminding her that she could never truly escape her roots. I wouldn't even say she was purposely trying to keep Lion a secret. I think she was just caught up in her own head and her own world. At the end of Rose's journey through character development is, of course, Greg Universe. Rose and Greg is another relationship that could honestly have a video all on its own, so I'll try to keep focus purely on how this relationship affected Pink. Out of all of Rose's romances and flings of human beings, it makes sense as to why Greg was the one that lasted. I think Rose was truly fascinated by Greg the most because while she adored Earth and longed to escape from her own planet, Greg's entire aesthetic was built around space and seeing what lies beyond Earth. Even if Greg never intended on actually going to space, Rose never expected that a human being could grow tired of this place. She wanted to understand him. And little did she know, the two were very alike. Greg really understood Rose and he really respected her, and she really responded to that because she never had that before. And by the end of their relationship, she didn't feel like she was hiding from him. And that was something that she couldn't really get from anyone else in her life except for him. But the flip side of that is that she was often running from something, and he enabled her to never confront what troubles her about her past because he doesn't want to confront what troubled him about his past. Greg really is the pinnacle of her fascination with humans. She viewed him as something beyond gemkind as a whole. Humans had the ability to change. sincerely change. Meanwhile, Rose felt like she never really changed at all. I mean, shit, she tells Greg that she's not a person. Despite having so much time to find herself and do whatever she liked, she still felt like she lacked an identity, that she was nowhere as impressive as a human being. She wanted nothing more to experience authentic change, and to give that experience to someone else. She wasn't thinking about the diamonds coming back to exact their revenge. She wasn't thinking about how her absence would impact the gems. How Pearl would be distraught that the person she pledged her allegiance to no longer existed. How Garnet would be lost without her guiding light, future vision or not. How Amethyst would be confused that the gem who taught her to embrace the body she was given would surrender her own physical form. She wasn't focused on the gems. She wasn't focused on her unfinished business. She was only focused on becoming a part of something greater than herself. So her and Greg decided to have a kid. One that would inherit her gem, truly erasing her from existence. And well, the rest is history. Pink Diamond is a complicated character. Her actions and lack of self-awareness have hurt the people she loves. But she was never malicious in her intent. She just wanted to be seen because she never learned how to love herself. She was never secure in her identity. And although she thought everything would be fine once Steven was brought into the world, it took years for everyone around her to heal from losing her and fill in the void she left. I don't think Pink Diamond is a monster. I think she's just as flawed as, well, everyone in Steven Universe. It's just harder for the audience to forgive what she's done when she's no longer around and unable to explain herself. And like Steven, that lack of closure makes a lot of us angry. It warps a lot of her morally gray actions into something more sinister. She's a cautionary tale, stressing the importance of loving yourself and being conscious of your actions. That for every positive effect your actions have, there's always the chance that if you go about it the wrong way, there will be negative effects as well. I won't tell you how to feel about Pink Diamond. I know this video won't change everyone's minds. I wasn't trying to, especially because she's a very personal character. Opinions on her are undoubtedly going to be influenced by real-life experiences that vary from viewer to viewer. She was kind of designed to remind people about not only the greatest inspiration in their lives, but their greatest heartbreak. But I gotta admit, I think I was personally too harsh on her in the past. Maybe she wasn't the greatest person, still leagues ahead of the other diamonds, but she is without a doubt a well-written character. And as someone who aspires to create great stories, to touch the hearts of many like how Steven Universe has, I kinda consider my past interpretation of her to be a failure. But hey, that's just me. Drop your thoughts on Pink in the comments down below, and let me know which character you want me to psychoanalyze next. Shout out to this doc, The Tale of Rose Quartz, which was instrumental when it came to researching this video. And if you enjoyed it, throw it a like, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. A lot of characters and plot points in Steven Universe got screwed over when Cartoon Network canceled the original series and only gave them 6 episodes to wrap things up. But nothing or no one got screwed over more than White Diamond. The ruler of Homeworld, the leader of the Great Diamond Authority, the final antagonist of the series, the biggest challenge Steven has ever faced. White Diamond carried so much weight, a lot was riding on her character for many fans of the show back in the day. Unfortunately, it felt like the conflict with her was resolved before we could even get the chance to know her. She didn't really have much time to live up to the hype, which definitely contributed to why the end of Steven Universe became so divisive in online spaces. This is the head honcho who's responsible for so much pain and suffering, the source for the cycle of abuse that's perpetuated throughout Homeworld. What do you mean she's dealt with in only 3 episodes? Blue and Yellow are making appearances since season 2. They were given some up-close and personal moments with What's the Use of Feeling Blue and The Trial, moments that explored their characters and laid the groundwork for Steven to work his magic and reunited. And even when they finally stop attacking Steven, they're still antagonists who are helping upkeep Homeworld's flawed system for a few more episodes. It still takes a smidge more drama for Steven to finally get through to them, and it feels earned enough when they finally stand up to White. White, comparatively, only has a brief introduction scene before she attempts to murder a minor, only to get roasted by him 2 seconds later. Time just wasn't on her side here. The Crewniverse had to convey so much about her with so little episodes. And it's a shame because White Diamond truly is a multifaceted character with a lot of depth to her. Like Pink Diamond, she's a cautionary tale. One that warns the viewer of what happens when you constantly live inside your own head, isolating yourself from from others and believing your perspective is the only one that matters, even when your actions not only affect the people around you, but the entire universe. We broke down Pink Diamond and Peridot. Now let's deep dive into the character that could have been one of Cartoon Network's greatest villains if Steven Universe was given more time to flesh out its ending. Unpacking everything we know about her, Rebecca Sugar's vision for the character, and highlighting her character arc in chronological order. This is White Diamond, the illusion of perfection. Unlike most characters in Steven Universe, I feel like knowing the inspirations behind White Diamond gives you a much deeper understanding of her character. When she made her long overdue debut in Lex Terminator Homeworld, a lot of fans were curious as to why she was not only confined to her ship, but why she was T-posing smack dab in the middle of it like the Statue of Liberty, striking the same Christ-like pose both her and a possessed Pink Pearl were depicted doing prior. What gives? Why did she refuse to break away from this position until she had a complete and utter meltdown? Is it tied to her radiating light? Is this how she pilots her ship? Is this her somehow powering Homeworld itself? The answer to all of those is a resounding no! I mean, maybe the ship thing could still be true, but that's besides the point. Like her isolation, this pose White Diamond is in for 95% of her screen time in the original series is entirely self-inflicted. It's White Diamond quite literally keeping up appearances and repressing her feelings, exerting what she believes to be the image of perfection, emotionless and lifeless. This, and Homeworld's philosophy as a whole, is inspired by a 1946 Kotex-sponsored animation called The Story of Menstruation.
The earliest inspiration for White Diamond goes all the way back to the very, very beginning of the show. She was inspired by a film called The Story of Menstruation, which was made in 1946. Kotex commissioned Disney to do a film to play in schools about what to expect when you begin to menstruate. And it's narrated with this woman's voice, this kindly older woman's voice that talks about how your body is going to change. There's a part where there's a woman at her vanity, she's combing her hair, and she starts to pull her hair, and the narrator is saying that there are going to be times when your mood will fall and where you'll get upset. And as this woman pulls her hair, she tugs it and she starts to just wail and cry, and she puts her head down in her arms and she's sobbing into her arms at her vanity. And this voice says, don't forget that people have to be around you, and you're going to need to be more pleasant if you want people to like you. And you see the reflection in the mirror slowly straighten up and smile, and she fixes her hair, and then it just wipes to another scene where she's out dancing, not too strenuously, of course, that's the right amount. And you leave behind the woman that's sobbing on her vanity. The real her is still crying into her arms. The reflection of her is likable and pleasant and smiling and fixing her hair, but the real her is still sobbing into her arms. And it just goes by. It's not, that's it. It's done. It's correct now that she's out with people and she can continue to do all the things she normally does, which is mainly cleaning a house. It just felt so interesting to me how warm the narration was and how nightmarish the content was. The idea that you shouldn't express yourself if you're going through this, that you need to keep up appearances, and all that matters is this reflection of yourself, and how you actually feel must be repressed in order for you to continue to function. And it's just such an interesting artifact. And that was the voice, and that was the feeling. And I remember playing this for Colin in the Black Building in the earliest days of Steven, and just being like, this is what Homeworld is. There are so many elements to what Homeworld is. A lot of it is inspired by Busby Berkeley. White is especially inspired by Hedy Lamarr in Ziegfeld Girl and Nell Brinkley drawings.
In a show that champions the importance of expression and self-discovery, of course the final antagonist would be all about falling in line with the status quo and putting on a facade that masks your flaws by restraining any and all traces of a personality. But this also allows her to challenge two other important aspects of Steven Universe: its focus on family and the fact that it was a newer cartoon at the time, not just in a literal sense, but in the sense that its structure, themes, and representation were all considered pretty bold for a Cartoon Network comedy in the mid-2010s. Ultimately, the show is about family. Steven's loving, supportive family, the Crystal Gems, in contrast to the Diamonds. The Diamonds are essentially parents. The gems that serve them were created by them and are being held to their impossible standards. Modeled after cartoon tropes from older generations. The evil stepsisters, the evil queen, Snow Queen, even a little Marvin the Martian. Pink fits into those older tropes too. The restless princess, the little Windsor McKay clown. White Diamond is, for all intents and purposes, a boomer. Someone who firmly believes that her worldview is the only correct one. That a successful society is one that upholds traditional values and keeps the system the way it's always been, even if said system screws over millions of people. The youth of today are a disgrace, with a warped moral code. They all need to be put in line. And damn it, the cartoons in my childhood were just better! Fuck Uncle Grandpa! But all that has me wondering, what are White Diamond's values? What is perfection in her eyes? That's just the thing. I don't think she even knows how to define perfection beyond herself. Just that she has an idea of what it isn't. And to fully expound on that, we'll have to turn the clock all the way back to the beginning and her feud with Pink Diamond. As we went over in the Pink Diamond video, the Great Diamond Authority emerged together 20,000 years ago, an event that split an unknown planet in half. Although piecing 2 and 2 together, it's easy to assume that this planet is indeed Homeworld. I'd love to see what that injector looked like, if it was an injector at all. Little is known about their upbringing or who created them, as that information was redacted from the art book. But it seems to be an extensive origin story that Sugar is almost certainly saving for a future installment of the series. But what we do know is that the Diamonds were already appointed to their positions on Homeworld when they were born. And these positions reflect how the Diamonds are meant to act as a unit, as one singular body. Hence their 4 ships forming a mech. Yellow is physicality, action, force. Her power can manipulate gems physically. Blue is emotion, thought, and culture. Her power can manipulate gems emotionally. White is identity, judgment, and perfectionism. The superego. Her power can manipulate and remove a gem's identity. And pink is pure want, impulse, and desire. She's infectious. She's the flip side of white. She can bring out a gem's hidden personality, their deepest wants. Pink was essentially White's worst nightmare, which is really messed up to say, since Pink was practically her daughter. Someone who held authority over gemkind just like the other Diamonds, but didn't conform to the rules that all gems are supposed to follow. And if she's not following the rules as a gem matriarch, then why should any of the gems on Homeworld abide by them? Also, this leads me to believe that the Diamonds were operating off of little to no instruction from their creator, and thus lacked vital information about their purpose. Because it definitely doesn't make sense that Pink and White were meant to be at odds like this. That Pink was made to not fit into White Diamond's system. Even if Pink's defective, something that I speculated about before, from what we know, that would have mainly affected her physical appearance, not her behavior or capabilities. Amethyst is small, and she's not as strong as Jasper.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
But according to Bismuth, her weapons are exceptional, and she's been shown to kick ass on numerous occasions. Pink's personality would have been the same, regardless of her size. So if anything, I get the impression that White Diamond assumed the role of leadership and created the system to what she felt was best, not taking into account that Pink's spontaneous nature was meant to serve a greater purpose amongst gemkind. White and Pink were always clashing. The Diamond body repressed Pink's wants, as directed by White, the self-critical conscious. Pink's shield made it impossible for White to override Pink's identity, so she had to find other ways to repress her. Unlike White, Yellow, or Blue, Pink didn't want to be prim and proper all the time. It was in her nature to be a goofball, to uplift others and encourage them to mold an identity of their own separate from White. But that disrupts the society the Diamonds had developed on a fundamental level. In White's eyes, gems can't have their own identity. They can only co-opt hers. And she believes this for 2 reasons. 1. Because she's the gold standard for gems. If they don't behave like her, then they're falling below that standard. And 2. Because she genuinely sees all of gemkind as an extension of herself and vice versa. White believes that because her gem channels white light, she is essentially a gem light form all the time. All gems are made of light, and she is light manifest. She sees all gems as her, sees herself in all gems, and judges them as she would judge herself. She believes she's everyone, which is why she speaks for everyone. But the truth behind her identity powers is that she has no identity at all. She needs other gems to behave as she would. She is very poorly differentiated, and any gem's behavior can be construed by her as a personal attack if they are not behaving as she would. Her identity is so fragile that she can only judge. If she were to act or feel or want, she would open herself up to her own criticism. She has traded that chance to be someone for the power of being everyone. A decision so miserable that everyone on the planet has to suffer for it. White seems to have the mentality that because she's the leader, all gems should have a literal follow the leader mindset and mimic her to the best of their ability. She considers personality traits different from her own to be flaws, as shown in Change Your Mind when she's chastising the crystal gems.
It's written all over their gems. Insecure, dependent, obsessed.
She wants gems to function as cogs in the machine, adamant that they shouldn't display any emotion. It's why they dance so robotically at Pink Diamond's balls. It's the epitome of repress your feelings, keep up appearances, by engaging in the art without using it to express oneself, which makes me question why they would do it at all. Comparing a home roll gem dancing to how a crystal gem gets down really says everything you need to know. Since Pink is so curious about the world around her and was assigned to uplift those around her, namely the diamonds, it makes sense that she would encourage gems to explore themselves and embrace their unique quirks, which innately clashes with White's ideology. An ideology that also puts an immense amount of pressure on Yellow and Blue, who fear White Diamond despite being her colleagues, and in a sense, family. Not even they want to fall short of her expectations and come across as flawed, lest they wind up as puppets under her mind control, which is her method of removing flaws from gems by forcing her light to shine through them. This fed into their stoic and detached demeanor that made them just as feared as they were celebrated throughout Homeworld. White's mentality also explains why Homeworld was set on colonizing the galaxy. White wants everything to be perfect. She thinks she is perfection personified. So if she can spread gemkind throughout the cosmos, using these extensions of herself to assimilate every planet they can find, then the universe itself will finally be perfect as well. When in reality, gemkind isn't perfect, and just because organic life is finite, it doesn't mean it's flawed or inherently has less value than the gems. Based on what we know from Blue and Yellow's recollection, alongside the occasional flashback here and there, Pink Diamond was always pushing White's buttons just by being herself. Pink never took anything seriously. She was a big old goofball, which got under White's skin as Pink wasn't behaving the way she would. She wasn't amused by Pink's antics, getting pissed at Pink for dubbing a fresh batch of pyrite fool's gold. And much like Pink Diamond, White has always been shown to have a pretty bad temper, one that seems like it can only be drawn out by Pink and later Steven, much like how White and the other diamonds drew out Pink's temper. Pink would be herself, which was different from White, so White would get upset and respond by repressing Pink, depriving her of validation and keeping her at arm's length, increasing her absence in Pink's life, which only fueled Pink Diamond's desire to be let in and treated as an equal. So long as these two would be at odds, the diamond body would remain at war with itself. And as time progressed, things between these two only got worse. It was the ultimate battle of the heart and the mind. Rebecca Sugar actually put a lot of thought into the diamond's various traits and dynamics, referring to the work of Sigmund Freud in her efforts to shape a compelling story. The Ego and the Id is an analytical study of the human psyche, published by Freud in 1923, and as some fans may already know, the relationships between the diamonds are actually based on this study. The four of them represent the three agents of the psychic apparatus. Pink Diamond is the id, Blue and Yellow are the ego, and White is the superego.
Well, they all exist as a body, which we show very literally with their ships. what happens between them, especially in Change Your Mind, is this one body's experience of embarrassment where the id is coming to the superego and saying, no, this, I want this, I like this, I am this, and the superego is saying no. But that was their dynamic in the past.
Mm-hmm. The id is driven by the pleasure principle, which strives for immediate gratification of all desires, wants, and needs. If these needs are not satisfied immediately, the result is a state of anxiety or tension. Yeah, that definitely sounds like Pink Diamond. For example, an increase in hunger or thirst should produce an immediate attempt to eat or drink. Immediately fulfilling these needs is not always realistic or even possible. If we were ruled entirely by the pleasure principle, we might find ourselves grabbing the things we want out of other people's hands to satisfy our cravings. The id is very important early in life because it ensures that an infant's needs are met. If the infant is hungry or uncomfortable, they will cry until the demands of the id are satisfied. Young infants are ruled entirely by the id. There is no reasoning with them when these needs demand satisfaction. Although people eventually learn to control the id, this part of the personality remains the same infantile primal force throughout life. It is the development of the ego and the superego that allows people to control the id's basic instincts and act in ways that are both realistic and socially acceptable. You can definitely draw parallels to both Pink and Season 1, Steven, and breaking it down like this is a great way to pinpoint the key difference between how the Diamonds handled Pink and how the Crystal Gems raised Steven. As we get older, the ego and superego help calm down the id, but the id's needs are still met eventually, like how the Crystal Gems gradually gave Steven more responsibilities and did their best to help hone his powers. But White, for the longest time, was doing her best to just ignore Pink and avoid giving her any sort of responsibility. She, as the superego, never wanted to satisfy the id, just repress it until it falls in line, depriving the whole body of what it needs by doing so, which only bred more tension and toxicity. Tension that Yellow and Blue did their best to smooth over as the ego. The ego develops from the id and ensures that the impulses of the id can be expressed in a manner acceptable in the real world. It's the personality component responsible for dealing with reality. The ego operates based on the reality principle, which strives to satisfy the id's desires in realistic and socially appropriate ways. The reality principle weighs the cost and benefits of an action before deciding to act upon or abandon impulses. It is the part of your personality that keeps you grounded in reality and prevents the id and superego from pulling you too far towards your basic urges or moralistic virtues. Having a strong ego means having a strong sense of self-awareness. Freud compared the id to a horse and the ego to the horse's rider. The horse provides power and motion, while the rider provides direction and guidance. Without its rider, the horse would wander wherever it wished and do whatever it pleased. The rider gives the horse directions and commands to get it where it wants to go. This fits Yellow and Blue to a T, trying to satisfy Pink Diamond without causing a scene in front of the other gems or upsetting White Diamond. Basically, helping Pink keep up appearances. When they had to deal with business, they would ignore Pink Diamond and try to keep her quiet until they were done, but then compensate by playing games with her. Another example would be Pink's desire for more responsibilities. While they wouldn't let her command a dropship or anything crazy, they'd let her name batches of gems. Little things that would make her decisions feel important, even though that just gave her bigger aspirations in the long run. Going off of this, we can assume that our Pearl and Spinel were solutions proposed by Yellow and Blue to please both Pink and White. Pink has a garden that's out of sight from the rest of Homeworld and a playmate that can tend to Pink's needs whenever she wants. And when she's not at the garden, she's tending to her duties and acting like the Diamond White expects her to be. Everybody wins! And circling back to White, we have the superego. The superego holds the internalized moral standards and ideals that we require from our parents and society. Our sense of right and wrong. It provides guidelines for making judgments. The superego tries to perfect and civilize our behavior. It suppresses all the id's unacceptable urges and struggles to make the ego act upon idealistic standards rather than on realistic principles. If you give in to the urges of the id, the superego is what will cause you to feel a sense of guilt or even shame about your actions. The superego may help you feel good about your behavior when you suppress your most primal urges. Of course, this plays perfectly into White Diamond seeing herself as everyone and everyone as herself. holding everyone to her standards, seeing any display of individuality as something morally reprehensible. If she wouldn't do it, then it's simply illogical and worthy of discipline. An individual with an overly dominant id might become impulsive, uncontrollable, or even criminal, such as individual acts upon their most basic urges with no concern for whether their behavior is appropriate, acceptable, or legal. On the other hand, an overly dominant superego might lead to a personality that is extremely moralistic and judgmental. A person ruled by the superego might not be able to accept anything or anyone that they perceive to be bad or moral. The Diamonds, as a body, were always going to be at war with themselves because they were always going to want different things. Yellow and Blue did their best to play both sides, but things only continued to spiral out of control because neither Pink nor White were ever going to be content with one another. White was never going to give Pink the validation she deserved, and Pink was never going to sacrifice her sense of self to appease White. So White continued to abuse Pink by having her locked up in her tower, isolated from her gems. And if what Yellow says to Steven and Lex from the homeworld is any indication, Pink might even have been bubbled by White before. But this was the only mention of it, so we can't say for certain. This abuse only frustrated Pink. It didn't encourage her to change, obviously. It was Pink's own actions that prompted a change once she mistakenly damaged her original pearl, learning to keep secrets and put on a facade in the aftermath, leading the Diamonds to believe that she was conforming to White's standard. White Diamond never fully bought into this facade, but still gave Pink the acknowledgement she longed for. White matches Pink's facade with one of her own, agreeing to Yellow and Blue's request to award Pink with a colony of her own, only to prove that she hasn't really changed. She gave Pink the Earth just to prove that it'll fail, also adopting Pink Pearl by taking control of her, which I suppose was her solution to quote-unquote fixing her and removing her flaws. But as shown later in the series, she used White Pearl as a way to communicate with Pink without giving her the satisfaction of talking directly. Not only would this get under Pink's skin, but it would rub salt in the wound by constantly presenting Pink with the pearl she's scarred and discarded, even if both of those things weren't her intent. Now, White Diamond already comes across as a cruel, petty bitch, but I think things really take a turn for the worse after Pink wanted out from Earth. Because if what's stated in the art book is still true, which the show seems to imply that it is, then White allowed countless of gems to get fucked up just to prove a point to Pink, blissfully unaware that Pink Diamond is going through something serious, and that she herself is the source of so much suffering. She's absent when Yellow and Blue encourage Pink to not give up on her colony just because of rose quartz. And it's not due to White wanting Pink to just figure it out on her own. It's due to White seeing right through the act and suspecting that Pink was rose quartz. She was the original cartoon theorist. She viewed the gem war as one big stunt and didn't say a thing to Yellow and Blue. As stated in Sugar's secret character timeline, White knows Pink is out there. This expensive, embarrassing tantrum is not worth her attention. Pink will come groveling back when she's done running away from home. You're telling me this hag let Blue and Yellow become massively depressed, and for Blue to become borderline inefficient at her job just to get one over on Pink? I know Yellow and Blue aren't saints. It's not like they deserve sympathy, but also Jesus Christ, lady. You could have let them in on your theory. She probably didn't, because she didn't want Blue running to Earth and bringing back Pink herself. She only wanted to see Pink come crawling back humbled and humiliated. Which means, not only did she let her gems fight in the war, letting them destroy each other, but she also faked her own grief and carried out the corruption blast alongside Yellow and Blue, scrambling the minds of thousands of gems, some rebels and some loyal homeworld servants, leaving them as confused, violent animals for 5,000 years. Assuming that Pink would survive thanks to her shield, but that wasn't a guarantee. Imagine if Rose didn't use her shield in time? She could have wound up just like her teammates, and it would have been on White for not saying anything sooner. Instead, she let the other Diamonds get consumed by a tsunami of horrible emotions and nuke their kid into the next millennium. And then she allowed Yellow to carry out the cluster, meaning that if Pink was alive by the point it emerged, she would have either been destroyed with the planet or forced back to homeworld, which means she wouldn't have come crawling back, but White would have almost certainly spun it that way. So, White, what's good with you, my nigga? Now, I do think a part of White, deep down, was afraid that Pink Diamond was gone for good. a fear that would ultimately prove to be true. Judging by how everyone talks about her during the Era 3 arc, it seemed like after Pink staged her shattering, White Diamond grew all the more distant from Yellow and Blue, spending most of her time alone in her ship, isolated from Homeworld, relying on White Pearl to get work done and make appearances on her behalf. Basically FaceTiming in, alright, I see you, Wade from Kim Possible, that one teacher from Nesta Classified head ass. Average Discord user. Not only did White isolate herself from everyone, living in her own head and shutting out the people closest to her, but she also let Homeworld fall apart a little bit. She didn't seem to care much about Era 2's resource crisis. And if that crisis was a result of Pink's absence, then if you ask me, White should have definitely shouldered some of the responsibility. She probably let things get that bad so she could have another thing to throw back in Pink Diamond's face should she ever come back to Homeworld. And hey, we have limb enhancers, so maybe the problem just fixed itself. But maybe this was also a symptom of a bigger problem White was dealing with. Her tendency to live in complete denial, which was only amplified once Pink Diamond was gone. It led her to denying that Homeworld was dealing with any major problems. And the Avid Live enhancers were just treated like a band-aid. White clearly began to miss Pink and was eager to have her home, even if she was driven by her need to exert control. Because once a few thousand years flew by and Steven came knocking on her door, she was quick to have the diamonds fall back into familiar patterns. Throughout all of Steven Universe, White Diamond is absent from the events of the story. Steven goes on trial for his mother's war crimes. No White Diamond. The diamonds come to Earth to retrieve the cluster and crush the crystal gems. No White Diamond. Was this lady even alive? Yes. And we find out she was out of the picture for so long because she thought she was giving Pink Diamond the silent treatment. Yikes. The brief exchange she has with Steven is already creepy the first time around, but given everything we know now, like the fact she's capable of having a normal conversation, it feels all the more unsettling. Bombarding Steven with what feels like a rehearsed, passive-aggressive scolding to Pink Diamond before forcefully moving Steven to the palace, making her disappointment and anger known without actually displaying any emotion, and undermining all of Pink Diamond's efforts by reducing the liberation of Earth and the Diamond Corruption Blast as just Pink's latest little game. Which, let me reiterate, White contributed to the Gem War. She knew how dire things were getting and the impact it left on Homeworld as a whole. She's calling that a little game and pinning all of the responsibility on Pink Diamond. Christ. It's manipulation that would have bombed, but she manages to get under Steven's skin because at this point, he isn't secure in his identity. He still doesn't know who he is, and he's under the impression that he can get through to White Diamond. But she's just not on the same page as him, so her gaslighting is unfortunately pretty effective on Steven. When Steven shows up, White, Yellow, and Blue fall back into a familiar pattern. Pink is here with a new thing she wants, and they think she's more unreasonable and dangerous to the status quo than ever. What they don't understand is that Steven isn't Pink. He's bringing humanity into the equation. He's trying to introduce it himself to them, and they can't even begin to understand him. What he wants, in addition to helping the gems on Earth, is just to be treated like a person. This is not unreasonable or impulsive, but the diamond body keeps punishing itself like it always has, for wanting something that White has deemed inappropriate. In order to ensure Pink never disrupts the status quo again, not realizing that Steven's mere existence shatters the status quo, White Diamond wants to strip Pink Diamond of all autonomy, but she knows that Pink's shield nullifies her mind control. So the alternative is what we see in the Era 3 arc, giving Steven the illusion of choice and the illusion of freedom, but keeping him confined to Pink Diamond's palace unless he's supervised by Pearl or the Diamonds. And of course, she keeps Steven as far away from her as possible, which includes not showing up to the ball, something I imagine she did with Pink constantly. She also uses White Pearl to keep an eye on Steven, which initially confuses him, but thanks to his strange dreams and witnessing White's power firsthand, he quickly pieces together that White Pearl is actually Pink Pearl, his mom's original right-hand gem. But like, again, this is White trying to throw Pink's mistakes back in her face. She can't fathom that Steven straight up isn't Pink. So after saying, "I'm glad you're home, don't ever do that shit again, but everything's cool," she wanted to haunt Pink and make it known through her old Pearl that everything, in fact, wasn't cool. There's still beef. There's still friction. But the thing is, it's not Steven's beef. He's been mistaken for his mom throughout the entire series, dealing with her baggage. But out of all those conflicts, it's safe to say that this one takes the cake. How can he get through to White Diamond, someone who thinks she's right about everything, if he can't prove to her that he is Steven Universe and not Pink Diamond? Because as far as White's concerned, Pink just deluded herself into believing she's Steven. Steven can't not be Pink because that conflicts with White's own identity. Steven has to slowly work his way up to the toxic identity of the Diamonds, personified by White. Ultimately, he needs to upend White's authority and change her identity. As long as White asserts herself as the standard for all gems, any gem that challenges her idea of herself will be in danger. All of Steven's efforts to change the Great Diamond Authority is countered by White Diamond literally weaponizing her beliefs and removing everyone's autonomy. Getting Yellow and Blue to question their beliefs was no easy feat, and although they were terrified of White, a part of them had to believe that their words did have merit and could make a difference for them to stand up to her. It took a lot for them to criticize their way of living, yet White just zaps them into puppets. Steven can only accomplish his mission if he himself gets through to White Diamond. But again, he's not immune to her manipulation. He shares the same identity crisis his mom had, which validates White Diamond's harmful beliefs. Steven is now the id, and he has no idea how to get the superego to understand that his needs are worth taking seriously, especially now that the superego has overpowered the ego. That is, until White Diamond pulls out Steven's gem.
Where is Pink?
She's gone!
If you're a kid in Steven's position and you need to speak that truth to power, I can't think of a better story to tell than one where the kid in that position has the power to tell their authority figure who they are and mean it and have them understand it. To me, that's just really special about the scene, and it's really real and just important.
The foundation of the show is the idea that simple human truths can be more astonishing and beautiful and powerful than fantasy. We wanted to build to this moment where Steven being Steven was the ultimate reveal. The power of him being himself, the simple fact that he actually definitely exists, obliterates White's authority and her identity. Because if she is everyone and everyone is her, then her wrongness about him is a wrongness about herself and everyone and everything. Ultimately, her identity is so fragile and she's so poorly differentiated that Steven is able to defeat her by existing. By this point in the video, you probably see how hard it was for the Universe to do White Diamond as a character justice with the few episodes they were given to wrap up the story. But I believe, even in an expanded version of the Era 3 arc that got to be as many episodes as it needed, the reveal of Pink Steven still would have been the perfect resolution to the Diamond conflict. That all it took to undermine White Diamond's authority was to simply prove her wrong once. Not through an argument or a high-stakes balls-to-the-walls anime fight, but through her own actions. She, as the superego, had to prove herself wrong to recognize that the id wasn't just being impulsive or irresponsible, to open herself up to criticism, to listen to the id, and take its needs into consideration. Once White's reality is shattered by Steven, she's finally able to put her guard down and leave her own head. And although White was able to help cure the corrupted gems, dismantle colonies, and eventually step down from power, there's one thing she'll never be able to fix: her relationship with Pink Diamond. This is a big part of what makes White Diamond a cautionary tale. While I definitely wouldn't say that I sympathize with White, because these are simply the consequences of her own actions, I still recognize that her story is a tragedy. She pushed away someone who was an essential part of her because she didn't live up to her standards, assuming that eventually, things will go back to the way they've always been. But they didn't. While White assumed that Pink was just trying to get her attention, sitting around in her ship for thousands of years, Pink reinvented herself. She became Rose Quartz and lived a whole new life before choosing to give birth to her child, Steven, passing on in the process. White Diamond represents a lot of things, but one of those things I believe she represents is something that sadly happens far too often in real life. A parent unable to accept their child for whatever reason, and never getting the chance to reconnect with them before one of them kicks the bucket because they were too stubborn to challenge their own worldview. Having a change of heart once it's too late to smooth things over. White only tries to do right by Pink once she knows that she's gone, as if she's trying to atone for the way she treated her, but she can never have Pink back. And although the Diamonds try to use Steven as a replacement, he wants to keep their distance from them outside of business. If it's not about saving the galaxy, then he wants nothing to do with them. It's kind of funny, now White Diamond is the one seeking validation. No longer leading Gemkind and having limited access to Steven, we're left with only one question. If she doesn't have Steven around as an incentive, can White Diamond truly change? Over the 2-year time skip between Change Your Mind and the movie, White Diamond makes a half-hearted effort to improve as a person, as she's mostly just trying to appease Steven. She's performing good deeds and healing the universe, but it's as clear as day that her personality is still kinda shitty. Although she no longer gets the ick from surrounding herself around other gems and humans, she still clearly sees herself as a superior being. And she does a horrible job of hiding it with her fake nice attitude.
Judging anything based on appearance is wrong.
However, after adopting Spinel and spending some time away from Steven, White Diamond has a breakthrough and discovers a brand new power that recontextualizes her beliefs and identity in a positive and meaningful way. Instead of taking control of other gems, she allows other gems to take control of her, allowing them to get in touch with themselves. She still embraces the notion that she is everyone and everyone is her. But instead of using this to assert her own beliefs, she's opening herself up to different perspectives while helping gems sort through their own issues, especially when it comes to self-image. White pitches it to Steven as a chance for someone to talk to themselves. It's meant to be therapeutic, getting a good look at yourself from someone else's perspective, while also getting the chance to be a 50-foot tall goddess. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Although this backfires horribly on Steven. Despite aligning herself with different points of view on a daily basis, White still has a habit of making everything about herself, even if she doesn't intend to. The best example of this being in I Am My Monster, when she really wants everyone to know that Steven's meltdown is her fault, because of the domino effect she caused by starting the cycle of abuse. There's a lot of narcissistic qualities to her that couldn't be dealt with in only 2 years, which is why if Steven Universe continues in the future, I think White could still have some development. I want to see her put in a situation where her progress and beliefs are challenged. If her creators come back into the picture, would she seek their validation or try to educate them like Steven educated her? What would her response to their return mean for Steven and the rest of the galaxy? It truly is a shame that White got the short end of the stick when it came to on-screen development, because her absence from the story is a huge part of her character, but even so, she definitely still needed a few more scenes here and there to make the events of Change Your Mind as compelling to the viewer as it was to the Crewniverse. But I don't want to harp on missed potential, because like White Diamond, we can't change the past, but we can open ourselves up to new perspectives. So if you were someone who felt underwhelmed by White Diamond all those years ago, I hope this video enables you to see her character in a brand new light, and that you have a better understanding of what Rebecca Sugar was going for. I know the bigger issue for some is the fact that the Diamonds were imprisoned, and while I do think where they ended up was another result of the series being pressed for time, I do also think that on some level, ending the series with the id repressing the ego and the superego would have been counterintuitive. The superego finally recognizing the id's needs is the ending that works best, in my opinion. But we're getting into an entirely different conversation, so to wrap things up, what are your thoughts on White Diamond's character? Let us know in the comments down below. And keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Instagram at OstricVox and at Roundtable Vids. Welcome back to Crystal Clear. I'm OstricVox, and in 2016, I tried to prognosticate the powers of the Diamonds. I found it fascinating to keep a video catalog of the different abilities found in the Gem Matriarchs. The following year in 2017, I made an updated version working off what we had after the Steven Universe Wanted event. Now here we are, Season 5 of Steven Universe all said and done with a movie on the way. Since we're in the midst of a hiatus, have more information on the Diamonds than ever before, and officially in the 1-year anniversary of Steven Universe Heart of the Crystal Gems, which saw our heroes face off against the Diamonds and reunited, which I want to do a special breakdown of on the 1-year anniversary, I thought it would be fun to give a complete assessment of the Diamonds' abilities, including some further speculations on what their powers could be. Side note, rewatching those previous 2 videos in preparation for this one really had me realize how much this channel its content, and I as a person have evolved over the years. How grateful I am to have all of you here watching the videos we make. So thank you. It really means a lot. Also, because of the nature of YouTube recently, if we can get this video to 4,000 likes, it'll help it fare better in the algorithm. I hate to ask in the beginning of the video, and if you want to wait until you watch all of it, decide if you liked it or not, I'm more than fine with that. Without further ado, let's get this party started with some real life influence. The safety hazard diamond. This is something we discussed in our previous iteration of this installment, but if you look just about anywhere in public, you may see said diamond that shares a striking resemblance to the Diamond Authority insignia, right down to the colors, except with red instead of pink. The thing about this is, each section of this diamond reflects some of the abilities found within Steven Universe and their diamonds. The blue represents a health hazard, and while that has more to do with physical health, a lot of Blue Diamond's abilities are rooted in mental health, forcing her grief onto others. The yellow is for instability. Shock and heat may detonate. And yeah, electricity, which can be associated with Yellow Diamond's signature move. Red is a fire hazard, and we know gems under Pink Diamond's court, such as Amethyst and Jaspers, possess some form of fire abilities. And white is a specific hazard. Radiation, for example. While this one's a bit harder to apply to White Diamond, you could argue there's no other diamond like her. She's in a league of her own. So yes, I don't know if you want to interchange specific for unique, but it's that kind of stretching that really ties theories together. Beyond that, somewhat sciencey mumbo jumbo, let's go through each particular diamond and run through the abilities we know they have and the abilities they might have. Starting with Yellow Diamond. I believe Yellow Diamond is the most formidable in battle. Not only does she lead Homeworld's armies, but whereas Blue and White Diamond have abilities that are more specific to gems, I feel like some of Yellow Diamonds could affect any species. Maybe not to the greatest extent of another gem, but enough to either do some damage or immobilize them so Yellow Diamond can really run in and steal the kill. Right off the bat, it can be assumed that the diamonds could do any of the standard abilities a gem can do, except to an even higher degree. Though it seems as if Yellow Diamond's abilities have had a direct impact on gem technology, especially when entering Era 2, namely her signature ability, Gem Destabilization, or as some may simply refer to it as, good old-fashioned electricity.
It seems to run on some form of electricity. Well, you're not wrong.
Now, just referring it to electricity kind of undermines it, as we see gems like Garnet can actually produce electricity, but cannot endure what Yellow Diamond has to dish out. With her Gem Destabilization ability, Yellow is able to produce electric-like currents around her entire body, channeling the current to her fingertips, where she's able to fire away at any gem. When struck by one of these currents, a gem is momentarily stunned before their physical form dissipates, poofing them. As previously mentioned, this ability seemed to be adapted into a Gem Destabilizer, a wand that produces strong enough currents to poof a gem entirely, lines of yellow energy coursing through their body, and in some cases, the gem can fall apart like Legos, limb from limb. However, unlike a Gem Destabilizer that appears to only knock out gems for a few hours at most, Yellow's raw currents causes a gem's reformation to stall much longer, taking over an entire day for Peridot and Lapis to reform, as they were poofed and reunited and didn't reform until much later, showing up and change your mind after reforming off screen. In fact, Yellow's destabilization is so severe that the crystal gems were unable to reform on their own. Instead, Steven had to awaken each gem through fusion. Not to toot my own horn, but way back in our first part of the Diamonds video, I speculated that Yellow Diamond did have electricity-like powers that function exactly like a gem destabilizer. However, we did not get confirmation until a year after in the episode The Trial. So, go me! Alright, enough of the ego stroke. Let's shift gears to Yellow's aura projection. Now, all four diamonds have the abilities to project an aura around them that they seemingly are able to control. Yellow's aura resembles the likes of, well, electricity. Simple enough, but then there's arguably Yellow's most interesting ability, something shared with Blue and White: corruption induction and corruption reversal. At the end of the Gem War, the three seemingly remaining diamonds put their powers together in order to create one last attack on Earth. However, it only caused the gems affected to turn into mindless beasts, corrupted gems. Although the corruption is temporarily reversed in Let's Rid a Homeworld on Nephrite, and later in Change Your Mind when all three diamonds and Steven are present in Rose's Fountain. I believe each diamond contributes their own role in corruption. Yellow Diamond causing damage of the physical form, which makes sense, as her signature ability is destabilizing a gem's form. Going back to Let's Rid a Homeworld, Nephrite's body only transformed back into her original
form after Yellow took a crack at killing her, going from her animalistic centipede-like state to something as close to her original form as possible. Yellow Diamond also has enhanced strength, speed, and durability. She was able to effortlessly poof blue zircon with nothing more than her own finger. Once Steven informed Yellow Diamond that he was technically Pink Diamond, she took it as a grave insult, sprinting to Steven at an incredible speed we have not seen any gem do before. And despite her ship taking a critical hit from the cluster, Yellow Diamond came out unscathed. Again, if you're fighting Yellow Diamond, say your prayers. You're going to need all the luck on your side. Alright, closing the page on the elegant Yellow Diamond, it's time to turn the page to Blue Diamond. Now, whereas Yellow Diamond is the most formidable in battle, I believe Blue Diamond is the most unpredictable in battle, as her powers directly correlate with her emotions. And with her emotional state tending to be a bit on the higher side most of the time, you never know what you're going to get. With that said, let's take a gander at Blue Diamond's signature ability, her pathokinesis. Voluntarily and involuntarily, Blue Diamond can spread her aura and grief over a large area, causing any gem to be overwhelmed with whatever emotion Blue Diamond is feeling. Although most of the time it is a very sad feeling. Now in Lecture to Homeworld, Blue Diamond's pathokinesis appeared frequently, although because she was no longer grieving, her tears of joy and later tears of nostalgia forcefully brought tears to surrounding gems, but they were able to still be mobile and have their own free will. Yet in episodes such as The Trial and especially Reunited, Blue Diamond's pathokinesis and her grief was certainly used as more of a weapon. When overwhelmed by not just her tears, but her grief, the crystal gems were immobilized, immediately falling to the floor and shedding tears. Garnet just barely being able to fight through it, thanks to the strong passion that she's comprised of. Lapis Lazuli was also able to overcome this pathokinesis due to simply having some pretty horrible experiences, every downfall causing Lapis to become a stronger being than she was previously. However, while we use Garnet as an example of enduring Blue Diamond's grief, every fusion is not able to withstand Blue Diamond's aura, as the mighty Alexandrite immediately crumbled and fell apart as soon as they were affected by Blue Diamond's pathokinesis. Organic beings such as Lion and Connie were seen to be immune to the pathokinesis, as simply, they aren't gems. Moving on from pathokinesis, something somewhat unique to Blue Diamond is energy projection and manipulation. While we see a form of this with White Diamond, Blue Diamond's is strictly offensive. Blue Diamond is able to mold her energy into different projectiles, namely spears and lasers. Now, we're not entirely sure what the lasers themselves could do, but as we saw in Change Your Mind against Yellow Diamond, Blue Diamond spears are almost like a concentration of her pathokinesis, as Yellow Diamond briefly shed tears after being hit with one of the spears. As mentioned with Yellow Diamond, all four diamonds have aura projection. Whereas Yellow aura's is more electric, Blue Diamond's aura looks a lot more liquid. Blue was even able to use her aura to break free of Lapis's chains and Reunited. When it comes to corruption, induction, and reversal, it seems as if Blue Diamond's contribution is to the mental state, which makes sense given her character arc and pathokinesis. After Yellow Diamond restored Nephrite's form, Nephrite still communicated in screeches and growls. It's only after Blue Diamond joined in the healing did Centipede have her mental state reformed, being able to speak in complete sentences, although it was really only one sentence, repeated over and over. Blue Diamond also has enhanced strength and durability, as she was able to crush Rose's sword in an instant, shattering the weapon into pieces. And after Yellow Diamond lost the battle to the cluster, Blue Diamond was crushed by the weight of both diamond chips, yet she was shortly seen unharmed. And now, although we haven't seen it in the series itself, I do still believe that Blue Diamond is in possession of water and ice powers. Reason being, well, look at Blue Diamond's court. Lapis Lazulis are proficient at water manipulation, hydrokinesis, and our very own Sapphire has ice powers. If these two gems from a diamond's court possess these abilities, why wouldn't the diamond herself? And once again, Blue Diamond's aura is liquidy. It reminds me of waves in an ocean. So just imagine Lapis at her strongest, or how Sapphire briefly used her ice powers as an offensive move, and now we're only falling apart. Now crank those up to a complete 10. Yeah, that's what I imagine Blue Diamond can do. And now on to the Queen of Queens, White Diamond. Man, oh man. If I only knew the greatness of White Diamond when I made those first two versions of this installment.
Now, we haven't really seen enough of White Diamond in action to determine how she'd fare in battle during a war or any of the sort, but needless to say, if you're a gem, yeah, you're pretty much screwed against White. She is the diamond of all. A gem powerful enough where a conversation wasn't even up for debate. Yeah, she's in her own head, but let me tell you, it's a very strong head. White Diamond's signature ability is mind control, or if we want to give a fancy name for it, that's also grounded in real life geology, we can use a term coined by our friend Leah over at the Channel Toon Ruins, bleached. White Diamond is able to fire beams of light out of her eyes, which makes contact with another gem's gemstone. This attack removes a gem's color, or bleaching it, leaving it nothing but black, white, and gray. Once bleached by White Diamond, a gem is under their influence and complete control. Their movements are dictated by White Diamond. Their speech is dictated by White Diamond. Their words are her words. Their voice is her voice. And any feelings that White Diamond feels, the bleached gem can also feel. Evident by the controlled diamonds and crystal gems blushing after White Diamond blushed being scolded by Steven. White Diamond can relinquish control of the gems at any time she pleases. Although those affected in question have no recollection of being controlled by White Diamond, no memory of what happened during that time period, they only can recall what happened moments prior. A subsection of being a bleached gem is power bestowal, as White Diamond's abilities are given to other gems, such as being able to bleach other gems, as the controlled diamonds and crystal gems also shot beams of light at Pink Steven. They also seem to be able to travel in a gray bubble, which allows them to phase through objects and buildings, as seen with quote-unquote White Pearl and Yellow and Blue Diamond once they were also bleached by White. White Diamond's aura projection was similar to Yellow Diamond's, although it really resembles that of a flare. When it comes to corruption, induction, and reversal, I believe White Diamond contributes memory and permanence. Cryptid gems seem to generally struggle with remembering who they were, their memories, and their cryptid state fluctuating, which lines can be drawn to the blacked out gems who lack any recollection when under White Diamond's control. And although Yellow Diamond, Blue Diamond, and Steven were able to heal Nephrite, the reversal wasn't permanent due to the lack of White Diamond. If the corruption attack was just Yellow and Blue, perhaps the gems affected would have been able to turn back over time, but because of White Diamond, they were stuck like that until all 4 diamonds were able to heal them. Now, when it comes to White Diamond's potential abilities, it can be assumed she has enhanced strength, durability, and maybe even speed, as those are possessed by the other diamonds. We haven't seen much of White Diamond in action, so we can't say anything for sure. I believe White Diamond also has possible energy projection, but this really ventures into theory territory, as my deduction is based off Pearl. Now, we know Pearl served Pink Diamond, but it's strongly implied that Pearl's creation was overseen by the other 3 diamonds, thus sporting Yellow, Blue, White, and Pink into her color scheme. Pearl has many light-based abilities. It's also believed White Diamond might have light scarring, the ability to permanently scar a gem's physical form, as White Pearl or Pink Pearl has a cracked eye, despite her gemstone appearing perfectly fine. Even after she returned to original state, Pink Pearl's cracked eye remained. Now, the reasoning for Pink Pearl's cracked eye is still unknown, but knowing Steven Universe, we may not get that answer for quite some time. Since White was Pink Pearl's most recent owner, many assume the cracked eye stemmed from White Diamond's abuse. Last but not least, let's go to the other arguably most elusive diamond, Pink Diamond. Now, we have the most knowledge on Pink Diamond's abilities due to our association of the character as Rose Quartz and her plethora of abilities. Now, Pink Diamond led a war, so while it goes without saying she could be formidable in battle, I believe she's possibly second to Yellow, which is insane considering how many of Pink Diamond's abilities aren't offensive. Now, it's hard to say what Pink Diamond's signature ability is, as again, she has so many, and it's really what you would assume what Rose Quartz's signature ability is. We know Pink Diamond has phytokinesis, the ability to manipulate and control plants, as Steven was able to create Watermelon Stevens and Pumpkin. However, we should also take note of Rose's moss from Lars and the Cool Kids. So we know this ability is not exclusive to Steven through some half-human, half-gem shenanigans, but rather something his mother was able to do prior. Pink Diamond also has the ability of gemstone creation, as she created seemingly fake shards to stage her shattering in a single pale rose, convincing enough to startle Steven and disturb Pearl. It's because of this ability that many suspect the rose quartzes bubbled in Pink Diamond Zoo are actually fake. We also know Pink Diamond has the ability to imbue life, as again, this is something Steven can do, imbuing life into a pebble in the episode Familiar. And while Rebecca Sugar has simply said, pebbles are gems, their gemstones are pebbles, many speculate that all the pebbles we've seen were created from Pink Diamond's own tears. Pink Diamond also has the ability of healing and resurrection, as she was able to mend cracked gemstones in the Gem War, although under the disguise of rose quartz. And it's heavily implied, if not confirmed, that Lion once died of a possible tragic death, and his current state of being pink with an arsenal of abilities was due to being resurrected by Pink Diamond's tears. Pink Diamond also has regulation of descent, where she can control the speed and velocity of how high she jumps and falls. This ability is simply also known as floating, which is the closest thing Steven can get to flying. I mean, there is distinction. Pink Diamond also has empathetic telepathy. Although we're not sure the extent of it and how much it differs from Steven's, Garnet stated that as Rose Quartz, Pink Diamond was able to connect with gems on a deeper level, assumably similar to how Steven contacted Lapis Lazuli in the episode Chillated. When it comes to aura projection, we've never actually seen Pink Diamond's aura, but Steven was able to channel the aura and reunited. Unlike the other diamonds, it's not really visually similar to anything that reflects Pink Diamond's abilities, although you think it would be close to flames. While Pink Diamond nor Steven had anything to do with corruption, Steven was able to showcase some of Pink Diamond's abilities and corruption reversal, as I believe Pink Diamond and Steven bring to the table presence. Whereas Yellow Diamond restored Nephrite's physical form and Blue Diamond restored her mental state, Steven was able to calm down Nephrite and snap her out of her little memory loop, bringing her mind to the present, where she completely functioned as normal as long as the Diamonds and Steven had her hand on her until she was fully healed due to White Diamond's possible assistance with permanence. Pink Diamond also has accelerated shapeshifting, as not only she was able to shapeshift and form a womb, being able to give birth to Steven organically, but after being poofed by Pearl, she was able to reform as Rose Quartz entirely, never having to revert back to Pink Diamond. Pink Diamond also has enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes, as again, seen when she's masquerading as Rose Quartz. In The Answer, Rose is able to take on 3 rubies simultaneously, separating a fusion of rubies in an instant. We also see her completely demolish the controls to Funland and Greg the Babysitter, which sent the ride he was on out of control. Pink Diamond may also have possible electrical interference, as seen in the episode We Need to Talk, as her high emotions cause the music on the radio to stop playing, though this may have been done by the show for just dramatic effect and is not reflective of an actual ability Pink Diamond can do. I also believe she has possible fire powers, as again, Amethyst and Jasper seem to possess such an ability, alongside rubies, all 3 gems under Pink Diamond's court. And I'm just saying, they had to get the abilities somewhere. Why wouldn't it be their own diamonds? Welcome back to Crystal Clear! I'm Ultrich Vox, and the diamonds continue to contribute to Steven Universe's immense cool factor with its lore and world building. The episode Homeward Bound equipped the diamonds with brand new abilities, which are the inverse of their signature moves, that, as all things Steven, can also serve a much greater meaning and commentary towards the themes of the narrative. In this case, Steven's mental health. So let's run through each of the diamond's new abilities and break them all down, from both their full potential in the world of the show, and how many fans have interpreted the meaning behind each power. Of course, spoiler warning. If you did not finish Steven Universe Future, please go do so, do yourself the favor, and then come back. With all that said, let's dive in. As stated in the beginning of this video, the new abilities of the diamonds complement Steven's own. They're the opposite of what everyone's familiar with. For Steven, instead of developing defensive powers, he now harbors a handful of destructive, offensive abilities. Those that don't help and heal, but damage and destroy. So for the diamonds, instead of using their abilities to oppress, dictate, and control, their powers now service others as well. And let's just start in the classic order of how the diamonds appeared in both the episode and in the series, starting with Yellow Diamond, whom instead of destabilizing gems with bolts of lightning, now can stabilize, as she's now able to permanently alter any physical form. Now, when this was said in the show, I could only think about her role in corruption. Long-term viewers of this channel know that when dissecting the initial powers of the diamonds, I claimed that their form shifted to an animalistic state due to Yellow Diamond, which was further backed up in the episode Lecture to Homeworld, as Yellow's attempt at healing Senti was at the very least able to shift her physical form back to that of a standard standard nephrite gem. I imagine this entire scene was used as a building block when the time came to develop the final episodes, since Yellow was more or less doing the exact same thing here. It was just a matter of her trying and putting in the effort. But yes, Yellow can either alter a gem's projected body as a whole, as shown with Flint, Steven, and later Garnet, or she can just alter certain body parts, as shown with Spinel's arms and legs. Now, Garnet already demonstrated one of the best uses for this ability in combat, being able to alter one's size when facing against a larger enemy, although in their case, they were all trying to hug a gigantic kaiju Steven. But I feel like another great use of this ability actually doesn't relate to combat, but with communication. I feel like in a lot of ways, Yellow can use this power to strengthen bonds between other gems. For example, if two gems hit a bumpy spot in their relationship, let's take a small gem like a ruby, and then a larger gem like a topaz, and the smaller gem feels like they aren't taken as seriously because of their height. Well, let's say Yellow pulls these two gems aside and ramps up the skill of the ruby to match the topaz. These two gems will be able to communicate with each other and work out their problems while being able to make direct eye contact, looking eye to eye, and standing on equal ground. Or let's say that topaz willingly shrinks down and has to live dealing with being at a ruby's height for a day. This allows gems to walk a mile in each other's shoes. That's kind of beautiful, but let's look at the real world implications and how a lot of fans felt this episode was trying to convey Yellow's new power. Essentially, when it came to Steven's struggling mental health, Yellow's power was akin to modifying your appearance. Steven not seeing a change in scale as a viable solution because changing the way he looks on the outside won't fix the way he is feeling on the inside. Now, do not conflate this with changing the way you look on the outside to match the way you feel on the inside. That's everyone's natural born right. The thing with Steven is that he didn't want his powers to grow out of control, but he didn't know how to control them. He didn't know where to start. As he told Greg, he was unsure of who Steven Universe even was. So the gem equivalent of giving himself a new haircut, it wasn't gonna fly. Next, we have Blue Diamond, who has by far the funniest ability. Instead of using radiated pathokinesis to make others around her feel misery and bawl their eyes out, Blue can now create clouds that, when in contact with another gem, will cause their mood to spike up and be as happy as can be. Now, my biggest question is, could she use these clouds, and instead of making others happy, could she shift the emotion to make them angry? Or maybe really nervous? What about hungry? Or would those manifest in a different material, a different substance in the cloud? Imagine angry rain. Well, I guess the Owl House has that covered, but the real world implications for this ability is pretty on the nose. Can we just put up some Snoop Dogg B-roll? Yeah, keep it right there. Blue Diamond is getting blasé-blasé. Okay, this may not be the exact interpretation, but the two biggest things I've seen thrown around is that yes, Blue Diamond's clouds are akin to the sticky icky, or something that should be presented a bit more grounded and a lot less memey, antidepressants, essentially conveying that substance abuse or prescribed medical drugs won't be the fix-all for how you're feeling. Now, I can't really speak for antidepressants. In my experience of mental health and being diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I personally am way too intimidated to take that step, though I suppose I am grateful enough to be at the point where I don't necessarily need to weigh those as an option, but I would imagine that antidepressants are meant to aid you. They can help, but no amount will be the permanent fix-all. Your happiness cannot come out of a bottle. Again, I'm not in the loop with a conversation around antidepressants. I'm not trying to say objectively that they're good or bad. I have people in my life that it's helped, and I have people in my life that hate them with every fiber of their being. As Steven himself said, in his particular situation, they are not the remedy for him to feel better and have control over his powers. Last but not least, that takes us to White Diamond, whom has the strangest power. Instead of controlling others, she's finally letting people in, figuratively and literally, adopting their color palette once they take control. Now, I'm not sure what trips me out more, the fact White Diamond is just allowing others to puppet her body, the 2008 YouTube movie maker rainbow effects, or the fact that, unlike Yellow and Blue, White's power is absolutely vain. We get it, she's all about herself. But whereas Yellow Diamond is actually piecing gems back together, together and literally help them land on their feet, and Blue Diamond is at least helping gems feel better emotionally, even if it's just a short while. White Diamond's power seems to just come from a place of, yeah, I'm pretty great, now I'm going to strive to be better, but what could be better than allowing the others a chance to be me? And it's true. I'm sure for a lot of gems, the chance to be a diamond for a moment, and as White said, giving them a voice, I imagine it's a cathartic experience. One that can benefit gemkind, but we also saw how flawed this ability is. As once Steven was in there and saw himself as a diamond, he attempted to smash in White Diamond's head, shattering her gemstone. Or at least, he thought about it, which in return caused him to act out the motions on himself. But imagine if this power fell in the wrong hands. If Bluebird got control of White Diamond, you think the diamonds are in the loop of what happened with them? No. White Diamond is kind of inviting any gem who can pretend to have good intentions to control her body, which they could easily use for their own mischievous deeds. Now, something I'm curious about is the ceiling of these abilities. For example, would Spinel controlling White also have been able to use her own abilities? Like, could she have made White Diamond's body elongate in any way, shape, or form? Would Spinel be able to use White Diamond's own power once she's in control? Could she, using White Diamond's body, control other gems? If a ruby took control of White, could that ruby use fire powers through White Diamond? What about shapeshifting or fusion? There's a lot of potential here with this ability, but none of it is good. And ultimately, I think the real-world implications of this ability, especially in Steven's own journey, is that you cannot deny who you are. Steven interpreted this in the worst way possible, but if someone was having problems, they couldn't just hijack someone else's life, assume someone else's identity. You have to embrace who you are and not hide it from anyone. Even if you're scared to show someone that side of you. Don't live a false identity. Be the person who makes you happy, but that person needs to be yourself, whom you are on the inside. As long as you don't see yourself as an evil space dictator, and then try to slam heads through pillars. But as always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? Out of all the new powers of the diamonds, which one do you fancy most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids, and for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at Fox. We're also on Instagram. Welcome back to Crystal Clear. I'm Oshrik Vox, and on the eve of Change Your Mind before the episode premiered, Cartoon Network hosted their first official Steven Universe AMA, with storyboarders Lamar Abrams, Mickey Brewster, and creator Rebecca Sugar. Now, many of these questions were answered, and it's time for us to start digging into them, starting with one that I found was very interesting. Reddit user Gravity Leap had a question from their little sister. If we encountered a lepidolite, what would she be like? To which Rebecca Sugar responded, lepidolite is purple, so she would have been created by blue and pink, which leads me to believe that she would be thoughtful, intellectual, and passionate. Whoa. That's way too much lore for one answer. Yes, after many years, Rebecca Sugar has confirmed 2 fan theories in one fell swoop. 1, the theory that a gem's personality is influenced by their diamond, and 2, the color of the gem, and by extension, once again the personality, is completely influenced by the diamonds who made them. Here they use an example of a gem we've never seen before, but the fact a purple gem would have been made by blue and pink, and the personality would correlate, as yes, blue and pink have both had moments where they're thoughtful. Pink is very witty, very clever. We saw that by her staging her shattering. And Blue Diamond, of course, is very knowledgeable. And we already know Pink Diamond is passionate. But let's apply this to other gems. Jaspers would have been created by Pink and Yellow Diamond. The Jasper we all know has quite the temper, which doesn't even need to be said, but that's a trait found in both Yellow and Pink. It also makes sense as to why Jasper went to Yellow Diamond. Jasper may have been in Pink's court, but Yellow in a way is still a parental guardian, so she would have had custody. Although that does explain why there are Jaspers and Carnelians in the zoo, but considering the main 2 we had focused on were off color, perhaps Yellow took a pass on them, but Blue was willing to induct them. And of course, Blue inherited the Amethyst, as they too are purple, meaning they're created by Blue and Pink. Gems like Emerald, for the longest time, people were wondering, wait, is she under Yellow Diamond's court or Blue Diamond's court? A lot of fans even assumed she served both due to the palette of her insignia. Well, that may be the case. Emerald's green, so she would have been created by Yellow and Blue Diamond. The same assumably goes for Peridot. She's green. Although her hair gives her a significant amount of yellow as opposed to blue, Peridots can likely be found in both courts. What about gems like Bismuth, who has a light blue pigmentation, but rainbow hair? Do other Bismuths on Homeworld have rainbow hair? How was she created? Who's her diamond? Blue Diamond's court is mainly diplomatic gems. Bismuth doesn't really fit in that territory, so what's going on there? Considering bismuths on homeworld seem to be more involved with colonies, erecting various structures, I actually assumed gems like her, who sport a variety of colors, would have been made by all 4 diamonds. Going off bismuth's personality doesn't really narrow it down either. You can argue there's traits of yellow, there's traits of blue. You can debate there's traits of pink. Now we really didn't get that much screen time with White Diamond, and none to how she behaved prior to Pink Diamond's death, so we can't really say if we spot any of those traits in bismuth. But White herself is every color. Perhaps gems like bismuths are under White Diamond's court. If she even has one, there are implications, such as the end of Lecture for the Homeworld, yet we didn't see a single gem who sported White's insignia. This also gives credence to the theory that our Pearl was created by all 4 diamonds, as a gift to Pink, as she does sport pink, white, yellow, and blue. And of course this fits with the CMYK model. Although if you go off of that, the rubies also would have been a joint effort by yellow and pink. So I assume anything in the orange to red spectrum would have been pink and yellow, like that red jade we saw. And yes, all of these are jades. Yeah, I know, not much variety in gems when they all look different, huh? Welcome back to Crystal Clear on the Roundtable. I'm Oshrik Vox, and as we all know, rose quartz is pink diamond. Whoa, it's been a very long time, and that still sounds kind of weird to say out loud. But by now, we've all accepted it, come to terms with it, and excited to see what the show has in store for us for the future. And while we're in the midst of the Steven Universe hiatus, in a world after Change Your Mind, and before the Steven Universe movie and a season 6, today we're going to go back and look at all the instances where this major plot point was foreshadowed. Guys, I started writing this video when A Single Pearl Rose first aired. It's taken a long time. Trust me guys, there's a lot of it. All the way in the beginning up until the episode before the grand reveal. Mostly in chronological order. Now the Crewniverse has had this plot point planned out before the show even went to production. So even if some of these seem way too out there, keep in mind, this was a game in the works for the last 5 years. Alright everyone, the first thing I want to point out is Rose's battle flag. A symbol of the Crystal Gems during the rebellion, this made multiple appearances throughout the series, and surely we'll have more to come. While this flag's most prominent feature is the stylized rose in the center, crisscrossed by stems with thorns on them, another notable detail are the pink diamonds behind the flower. It was a very much in-your-face, front and center nod that rose quartz was hiding our true identity as Pink Diamond. It's neat that there's a total of 4 darker shades of pink diamonds, as 4 matriarchs make up the Great Diamond Authority. With Rose's secrets out, I wonder if any characters will ever acknowledge this. More on Rose's flag later. Going into the series proper, let's examine the first episode of the series, Gem Glow, specifically revisiting the Cookie Cat anthem. I don't think I need to point out this song served as foreshadowing for the true nature of the series and its characters, but 2 lines in particular takes on a whole new meaning. For consistency's sake for such a short song, we can incorporate most of the important lyrics. Oh, he's a frozen treat with an all-new taste because he came to this planet from outer space, a refugee of an interstellar war, but now he's at your local grocery store. He came to this planet from outer space, a refugee from an interstellar war. Of course, this refers to Garnet, Pearl, and Rose being refugees from Homeworld, and the gem war that Rose created. Now he's at your local grocery store, being the fact that Steven lives with them, right by Beach City. The whole new meaning comes with, he's a frozen treat with an all-new taste. It could be a wink at Pink Diamond creating the Rose Quartz identity. All new taste, all new form, all that jazz. The other line is, he left his family behind, coming in at the end of the song. We now know that by faking her death and assuming the role of Rose Quartz full time, Pink Diamond abandoned her own family. Yellow Diamond, Blue Diamond, and White Diamond. Not to mention when you look at the Cookie Cat, it's half vanilla, half strawberry, which you could argue could also be the color schemes for Rose Quartz and Pink Diamond respectively. It could also symbolize Steven's human half and gem half, which is a lot more literal in Change Your Mind. Also in Gem Glow, when Steven asks Amethyst to move over so he can summon his weapon, Amethyst responds with, "Alright, Your Highness." Laser light cannon's foreshadowing was very cheeky compared to most. Steven's crawling through Greg's messy garage, searching for the episode's titular MacGuffin when he accidentally shatters a photo of his parents. Funny how the cracks only formed around Rose, in a framed photo. Much like how she framed herself for shattering, herself. That sounds so weird out loud. Also, Laser Light Cannon introduces Steven's obsession with Frybits. The Frybits in general could have been an elaborate foreshadow to the fact Pink Diamond consumed, or at least put in her mouth, bits of gem shards she created to fake her death once Pearl poofed her. This is one of those could be stretching it moments, but if it fits, I sits. Although, who doesn't love Frybits? After I got hardcore in the Steven Universe, I started making Frybits out of potatoes weekly, almost almost daily for a while. It's been a good year or so since I've done it, but man, they're just so addicting and so good. Freibo sees the debut of the character Petey, the townie and friend of Steven, who's probably closest to his age, until Connie appears. Now, for the longest time, Petey has always been memed on, as his name is literally the initials for Pink Diamond, and it felt like there was some illusion present. Little did we know it was right there in his first episode. Petey laments to Steven that he wanted to be a part of the Fryman family business, but once he finally got in, it wasn't what he expected it to be. He was just stuck in a sweaty costume while they as their mascot, wishing he could go back to just lollygagging around at Funland. Seasons later in the episode Letters to Lars, we see Petey open up his own tater tot stand, Hot to Tot, although Steven still orders the same old, the bits. So all of this is a pretty good parallel to Pink Diamond. Pink Diamond wanted to feel more part of the Diamond Authority, their own family business, desiring a colony. Yet, once she finally got her own colony, it wasn't quite the bee's knees and she actually admired the earth. Much like how Petey preferred living it up in Funland, Pink Diamond wanted to abandon her duties and her abusive family to live among mankind, to become a free spirit. Petey feeling trapped as a mascot could correlate to Blue Diamond's advice in Can't Go Back stream flashback. She remarks to Pink, "Everyone on this planet is looking to you. You don't even have to do anything. Just smile and wave." Typically with a mascot, they are the face of a company or brand. And yeah, all they have to do is smile, wave, and keep the masses pleased by basically doing nothing. Pink Diamond ultimately created the Crystal Gem Rebellion as Rose Quartz, breaking away from the Diamond Authority, but much like how Petey's tater tot stand is still a potato-based food product, like his family's business, the Crystal Gem Rebellion was still led by a diamond, ultimately leaving it susceptible to be interpreted as a wolf in sheep's clothing of sorts, even if her intentions were good. Guys, this is such a deep parallel, and I can't believe it was planted 5 episodes into the series. Tiger Millionaire also had a sprinkle of foreshadowing and parallels. Pearl chastising Amethyst for acting childish and having her outburst, Garnet telling Amethyst that she's a crystal gem and she needs to start acting like one. It goes without saying this very much mirrors the relationship between the diamonds. Amethyst acting as Pink here. Pearl even believes her and Garnet's words got through to Amethyst, much like how Blue Diamond probably assumed her talk with Pink helped her out in the long run. I mean, it kinda did. The biggest takeaway, however, is Tiger Millionaire and Purple Puma's respective backstories. For Tiger Millionaire, a rich feline industrialist from Jungle Island, once a single child of the wealthy tiger family, he clawed out his own destiny making money in the coconut mines. Rich industrialist, someone who's involved in the ownership or management of industry, like the diamond colonies, and maybe Tiger Millionaire creating his own destiny sounds familiar. For Purple Puma, she was the wildest cat in the jungle, so wild the other cats couldn't take it, so he went to look for somewhere else he fit in, somewhere with other people who felt misunderstood. I don't think I need to spell that out, but that's Pink Diamond to a T. Moving on to Steven's Lion. Steven's Lion introduces everyone's favorite magic pink animal, lion. In real life, lions are often associated with royalty and being dubbed as the king of the jungle. It makes sense from a writing standpoint to pair up Pink Diamond with a majestic animal, or 7, but lion's the one that matters the most. Love ya, buddy. Giant Woman. This one is kind of debatable, but in the iconic titular song, Steven states, "But if it were me, I'd really want to be a giant woman." These lyrics correlate with the fact he is the reincarnation of Pink Diamond, who was, relative to human scale, a giant woman much larger than him. So Many Birthdays is our first real landmark of associating Steven with the imagery of royalty. His annual birthday suit is that of a king's outfit, complete with a cape and crown. This image correlates to Pink Diamond, a gem matriarch, royalty on Homeworld. Steven the Swordfighter has minor allusions to Pearl shapeshifting to stage Pink Diamond shattering, as her hollow Pearl stabs her with a sword, poofing her, similar to how Pearl, as Rose Quartz, poofs Pink Diamond with a sword. We also have hollow Pearl cutting down a pink tree in Pearl's room. These might be a reach, but let us know what you think in the comments. Lion 2 the movie has a very much in-your-face moment with a detail a lot of true believers picked up on years ago. Within Rose's armory is a giant penny, an obvious nod to Batman. He has a giant penny in his own cave. Okay, we get that. But the connection is much like how Batman has his double life as Bruce Wayne, Rose Quartz has a double life as Pink Diamond, and Pearl is her Alfred. Looking back, yeah, I don't see why I thought it was nothing more than a Batman reference with nothing deeper underneath. But hey, over on the Roundtable Teespring store, we have a Bat Quartz design. If you want to pick it up and support the artist who made it, link to that will be in the description. She was Batman the entire time. Mirror Gem. This is actually a big one. When Pearl removes the mirror containing Lapis
Amethyst gem. She remarks it can capture and display any event it's witnessed in all of gem history, and that it'll offer Steven everything he's ever wanted to know about gems and their culture. But as the mirror doesn't work, Steven just sees his reflection, to which he says, I must be incredibly important to gem culture. And he was right, as by all technicalities, he is Pink Diamond. Space Trace also has hidden insight details. When Pearl puts on her spacesuit, you can spot Pink Diamond's insignia smack dab in the middle, alluding to her time serving her, or at the very least, under her court. Yet, her reaction towards being in space, wanting to show Steven homeworld, it feels as if she briefly longed for their old lives. After all, during the Diamond Days arc, Pearl did not seem to mind at all being on homeworld. She was actually very excited to help plan the Era 3 ball. Keep Beat City weird. Big clue here. We open with a game of Steven tag. Garnet and Amethyst shapeshifted at the lovable goofball, and offers Pearl to get in on the fun. Yet she's very reluctant and uncomfortable by the gesture. It's very apparent she's not fond of shapeshifting, planting the seeds very early for her role in staging Pink's demise. Also, by the end of the episode, Renato discovers the diamond on a dollar bill, which ended up being the same shape as Pink Diamond's gemstone, establishing her firmer hold over the planet as a colony. In the roller coaster of an episode that is Garnet's universe, Ringo has a gem that looks a completely different shape when rotated and placed within Ringo's crown, just like how Pink Diamond rotated her gemstone whenever in the form of rose quartz, deceiving the masses. Watermelon Steven gives us another dose of depicting Steven as royalty. Greg creates a crown out of a watermelon, placing it on his son. And not to mention, Steven commands an entire army of sentient fruit. It's like he was running his own little court. Ah, the family business. On the Run finds Pearl consoling Amethyst after their scuffle, stating, none of this is your fault. You didn't build this place. I hope you can forgive me. You're the one good thing that came out of this mess. Pearl's guilt, her words, her shame of the kindergarten is due to her and Pink Diamond being responsible for its existence in the first place. They were the ones who called all the shots. They were the ones who were killing life and leaving nothing behind. Definitely one of those layers upon layers, more powerful when watching the show moments that showcases just how complex Pearl is. Rose's scabbard is another heavy one, with Pearl's words and actions. When everyone connects the dots that lion belonged to Rose, Pearl snaps. She felt that if Rose had a lion, she would have known about it. Now that we know Pearl served Pink Diamond, that they spent all their time together, and was a part of Pink Diamond's biggest secret, of course she's going to be hurt and feel betrayed. Pearl hitting the wall and Rose's frame falling down could also be an allusion to the image of Rose Quartz beginning to shatter. That Pearl knowing more than she leads on could have, and does have, greater implications. Later on in the Strawberry Battlefield, Pearl can be seen covering her mouth. It's unknown if this was her just stuck in her own head, coping, or her retaining Pink Diamond's secret from Steven, something we see enacted far down the road. I don't believe it was Pearl's seal kicking in at the time, but it can retroactively be viewed as such. As Pearl relives a conversation she had with Rose Quartz, likely the eve of staging Pink's demise, Rose informs Pearl, if we win, we can never go home, implying Rose and Pearl are from Homeworld, despite later claims of Rose emerging on Earth. There's also the pretty big factor that Rose refers to Pearl as my Pearl. Pearl is quite literally her Pearl. The only other pearls we ever see in the series belong to Diamond. They were slapping us in the face, people. Nearing the end of season 1, we have the return. As Greg and Steven flee Beach City, Greg tells Steven that Rose gave everything up just to stop what they started here and drive the invading gems off of Earth. Rose gave up everything, including her status as a diamond, her old life as royalty, commanding a court, and having her own colony. Whew. Before we continue, I just wanted to thank you guys for watching this far and tell you that videos like these take a while to make. Obviously they're longer than our typical fanfare, but we want to make longer videos like this. So we're asking for your support. If you could consider helping us out over at patreon.com/roundtablevids. We would love to be financially stable enough to grow our team and make more well-researched videos like this. It's a lot of fun to do. Now we have a lot of perks, including a shout out. If you ever wanted to be shouted out in a video, Patreon's a great way to do it. So head over there. Look at the various tiers and see which one suits you best. Even just $1 goes far. So link to that will be in the description. Alright, now back to the foreshadows. Attack the light! Yes, the video game itself has some foreshadowing. The light prism is only supposed to be activated by a very powerful gem, and then it's activated by Steven. Well, of course someone who possesses a diamond gemstone is going to be considered a powerful gem. All jokes aside, I really dig this foreshadowing. Moving into season 2, where the foreshadowing begins to unwind a bit, say uncle. Yes, the Uncle
Grandpa crossover. When Uncle Grandpa examines Steven's gemstone, he remarks, "You should make sure you get this thing polished at least twice a year." In real life, diamonds, alongside other jewelry, are recommended to get polished once or twice a year. Now, the Crewniverse has been kind of iffy on this one, as they directly addressed it on the Steven Universe podcast, but I'm going to stand by it, even if it works retroactively. Sworn to the sword. Big one here that's hidden in plain sight. Pearl is shown to be right-handed in combat, while Rose Quartz is shown to be left-handed. If we flash forward to Your Mother and Mine in Season 5, the silhouette of Rose that shatters Pink Diamond uses her right hand, giving away that Pearl indeed shapeshifted into Rose Quartz to stage the shattering. We'll come back to Your Mother and Mine later, but finishing out Sworn to the Sword, Garnet informs Steven of Pearl's dedication to his mother during the Gem War, Pearl putting Rose Quartz over logic, consequence, and her own life. This has two stronger implications revisiting everything. Pearl was Pink Diamond's Pearl, so it's instinctive for her to do everything to protect her. But also, if Rose was pooped at any point during the war, her gemstone would have been revealed to be Pink Diamond's. The secret would have been out. So, kudos to Pearl. She really had everything covered. We need to talk. Towards the climax of Greg's storytime flashback, a few alarming things rise from his conversation with Rose. First off, Greg yelling at Rose to talk to him like a real person, to which Rose pauses and responds with, "I'm not a real person." At first glance, this is just Rose referring to the fact she's a gem. They aren't human. They wouldn't consider themselves as people. But now it could be Rose referring to the fact that her current identity is one of deception. Rose Quartz is arguably not a real person. Pink Diamond is. Greg also questions if Rose ever misses home, to which Rose states she never does, hammering in that Rose is not native to Earth, but homeworld. Cry for help. The beginning of the Sardonyx arc, eh? In particular here, I'd like to focus on Sardonyx and her shoes, which, wouldn't you know, have pink diamonds on them. I wonder how Garnet's half of the fusion felt about that. Maybe something like, those are a nice touch. It's like wearing the blood of our enemies. Sadie song. The song, Haven't You Noticed I'm a Star, has some pretty big allusions towards Pink Diamond. I can't help it if I make a scene, stepping out of my hot pink limousine. I'm turning heads and I'm stopping traffic. When I pose, they scream, and when I joke, they laugh. I think we can all equate making a scene, stepping out of a pink limousine, to Pink Diamond stage shattering occurring right outside her pink palanquin. Or, alongside the rest of the lyrics, just how, as a diamond, she had a court who adored her and praised her every single move. Diamonds travel in their palanquins, so it makes sense her entourage would follow and praise her. Back to the barn. When observing Pearl, Peridot deduces that Pearl is a fancier model, asking who does she belong to before defecting from Homeworld. Peridot was right on the nose, as Pearl was custom made for Pink Diamond, definitely making her a fancier gem than most on Homeworld. Steven's birthday. Aside from more images of royalty in Steven's birthday section of Greg's photo album, he has a very interesting line of dialogue when he begins to struggle maintaining his older form. If I can just keep this up for the rest of my life, no one will suspect a thing. Like mother, like son, huh? Pink Diamond was able to take on a different form as Rose Quartz. And, well, yeah, she got away with it. No one noticed. It could have been great had some foreshadowing I picked up on and willingly ignored the first time around. When the gems arrive on the moon base, Steven takes the lead traversing up the stairs, to which Peridot remarks, "We're literally walking in the footsteps of the diamonds." Who's the one walking in front of you, Perry? Shortly after, when Steven sits in the control panel's chair, Peridot remarks, "That chair is only for the elite gems. You can't go around sitting where an elite would sit." But Steven says, "Well, they aren't here now, right?" Actually, Steven, an elite is in that spot at that very moment. It's you! Heading into Season 3, Steven floats. As Steven ascends into the sky, he passes a white and pink airplane, with 3 diamonds on the exterior and 4 diamonds on the vertical stabilizer, the latter of which are 4 different shades. The plane itself reads, "Da War Airlines," which you could easily say aloud and get, "The War Airlines," referring to the event of the Gem War itself, and of course, Pink Diamond's role in all of it. Mr. Greg, the highly acclaimed musical episode. During Pearl's iconic musical number, It's Over, Isn't It?, in the bridge of the song, she recites war and glory, reinvention, fusion, freedom, her attention. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Reinvention? After War and Glory? Yes, I believe this is a nod to Pink Diamond reinventing herself as Rose Quartz, resulting in her self-proclaimed Gem War, which saw a victory, where Pink became Rose full-time. There's also an interesting parallel in the song Both of You, with Steven assuming a pink tint, Pearl a blue tint, and Greg a yellow one. The situation mirrors Yellow Diamond and Blue Diamond's relation to Pink under a different context. Monster reunion. While this isn't necessarily Pink Diamond being rose quartz foreshadowing, the partially healed Centipedal's diamond insignia is covered up, hiding which court she's under. But we can infer from the fact that she's assigned to Earth to begin colonization that she does indeed serve Pink Diamond, which is confirmed in Leg's creator homeworld. Greg the babysitter. During Rose's monologue on how gems are made and their purpose, she remarks that when they emerge from the ground, that's who they're supposed to be forever. Yet she doesn't acknowledge that the crystal gems deter from that idea, as it begins to cross into the idea that there's more to rose quartz than meets the eye. Bismuth. With all the insane revelations in this episode that still give me chills, this episode introduces the fact that Bismuth designed Rose's sword for a fair fight, that it can destroy a gem's physical form projection, but never the actual gem itself. Thus, a gem cannot be shattered from Rose's sword. Earthlings. Jasper shames the crystal gems for coming out misshapen, to reshape themselves outside of their purpose, and to defend the Earth, calling all of that a disgrace, when all of that describes Pink Diamond and her evolution into rose quartz. You know, Jasper's diamond. Well, we can't prove she came out misshapen, but she's certainly smarter than all the other diamonds. Also, can we just roll that voice clip from the climax again?
My diamond! Your diamond! Pink diamond!
God, I love that sample. Back to the moon. When Eyeball lets the cat out of the bag that rose quartz shattered Pink Diamond, Steven looks to Garnet and Pearl. The latter turns away and has her mouth covered, alluding to the seal Pink Diamond put on Pearl to prevent the truth from surfacing. Bubbled. This is one of the more sillier foreshadows, but when Steven claims he's rose quartz to Eyeball, showing off his gemstone, Eyeball remarks, "That's more of a pinkish red than a real rose quartz reddish pink. This Ruby knows her stuff." Again, it's goofy, but I love it. On to season 4. I briefly want to touch on Buddy's book. Again, Rose's 7 Lions. They're associated with the image of royalty, and their location out in the desert alludes to another thing we see soon in the season. Onion Gang has a pretty fun one. Garbanzo, who's wearing pink, fakes his death, though Steven is very much convinced.
Why'd you nudge me and wink like this was all a big joke?
You could also make a case for Steven and Onion's friends wearing a trench coat to masquerade as a grown-up, correlating the Pink Diamond assuming the identity of Rose Quartz to declare herself mature and liberated from Homeworld. 3 Gems and a Baby has some great imagery in the beginning of the episode. Steven, wearing a pink onesie, has his gem unbuttoned so it can breathe, making the shape of a diamond around Steven's gemstone, which of course is exact to Pink Diamond's own design. Not to mention, if Pearl did remove Steven's gemstone, the secret would have been out right then, right there. Steven's dream has a very great parallel in the form of Blue Diamond and Greg's conversation about missing someone who's no longer around, and how to move on from that. They're referring to the same person, who's both caused them similar grief in their absence. Steven's connection with Blue Diamond in general is also, of course, an extension of his mother being Pink Diamond. Adventures in Light Distortion features Pearl almost remarking that she served Pink Diamond before pausing, and in that moment, you can actually hear a faint cue from the General Diamond Authority theme.
When I still served Homeworld.
That Will Be All introduces the bubbled rose quartzes, which Steven asks who they've been bubbled by. Yet, it could have only really been Pink Diamond, meaning she accounted for what would happen once she staged her demise. Storm in the Room has Steven staring at a picture of his mom when he says aloud, "I just want to know you, the real you." And his entire rant towards her in the episode's climax has even deeper meanings when you revisit the scene after the reveal. Lion 4 alternate ending. In the very beginning of this episode, as Steven tries to decipher his mother's message, he remarks, "I Bitey Asia? I Bitey Asia could mean something. Maybe I'm supposed to go back to Asia and bite something?" Which could allude to Pink Diamond creating fake gem shards and swallowing them in Asia. On that note, Pink consuming fake shards may be why Pearl has such a great opposition to eating. Later in line 4, we also go to Rose's landfill, which is built around Pink Diamond's leg ship. In hindsight, this should have been the final confirmation. Why else would Rose choose this ship to set up storage? Concluding season 4 with I Am My Mom, when Steven turns himself into Homeworld, Pearl cries out to Steven one last time before covering her mouth. With everything we know now, it's likely Pearl wanted to confess everything and anything right there before Steven departed to Homeworld, but due to the seal, was unable to. Alright, season 5, almost done guys, the trial. Not sure if this was intentional, but after Steven proclaims himself as Rose Quartz and his gemstone has a quick focus shot, both Blue Diamond and Yellow Diamond have very peculiar reactions, as if the gemstone is a bit more familiar to them than they originally thought. And of course, almost everything in the trial unravels the notion of Pink Diamond being assassinated by a Rose Quartz. all the way down to Blue Zircon stating that another diamond had to be the one responsible for Pink's shattering. After all, in real life, only a diamond can shatter a diamond, or like a sledgehammer. Lars's head. Once Lars is resurrected, not only does he have a similar color scheme to Pink Diamond, but he bows before Steven, as our protagonist returns to Earth through Lars's head, as if it was a knight bowing before a king. Gemcation. Aside from Pearl's reflexes covering her mouth, preventing her from telling the truth about Pink Diamond to Steven, in Garnet's brief war flashback, where the crystal gems combated against Pink Diamond, Rose isn't present. Well, I mean, she's right there, but as Pink Diamond. Jungle Moon. Alright, so beyond Steven tapping into Pink Diamond's memories, the fact Yellow Diamond takes the form of Priyanka, while Steven is fused as Stevani, and Stevani taking the place of Pink Diamond, was a pretty big indicator of both Pink Diamond's identity and her relationship with Yellow Diamond and Blue Diamond. Your mother in mind. Beyond what we mentioned earlier, when addressing the various rumors of Rose Quartz, Fluorite states, "Don't be silly. Rose Quartz isn't real." Which, I mean, she's not wrong. Garnet's entire flashback is stylized until the Diamond's corruption attack, which indicates most of the flashback is fabricated. It's not reality. Hence why it's not in the show's usual art style. Not to mention, none of Pink Diamond's dialogue in the flashback is faithful to the character we actually know and adore. Pink Diamond's hair in the flashback is also very reminiscent of the Rose Quartz flag. And of course, the huge irony of Steven worrying about Pink Diamond still being out there, and Garnet retorting that Rose ensured Pink was long gone. And finally, last but not least, can't go back. When Steven taps into Pink's memories one last time prior to the big reveal, Blue states, "As long as you are there to rule, this colony will be completed," planting the seeds in Pink's mind to stage her shattering. A light bulb must have went off in Pink's head, realizing, if I'm not here, then the colony will be no more. And we all know how that turns out. Okay, we did it. All the foreshadowing we could find in the series, but there's a few more details I'd like to point out. In the pilot of the series, the gems had a colored ring around their gem that seemingly responded to the rank. Pearl having a bronze ring, Amethyst having a silver ring, and Steven having a gold ring. But why would Steven have gold if Amethyst, another quartz, has a silver ring? Gold should only belong to the diamonds. Steven and Pink Diamond have the same hairstyle, down to the 5 little bumps. And of course, Steven's gem resembles a brilliant cut diamond, which a lot of people used as evidence for this series' validity after Jungle Moon aired, convinced this was how Pink shapeshifted her gem as Rose Quartz. And well, they were right. And that brings us to a close. What did you guys think? Did we miss any foreshadowing? Let us know in those comments below. And I want to give a special thanks to a lot of sources I use to double check and just find other things I might have missed. So I'll link all those sources in the description and pinned comment. Welcome back to Crystal Clear. I'm Shark Fox, and I want to talk about what's without a doubt the most controversial plot point and decision within Steven Universe, alongside the giant misconception that surrounds it: the Great Diamond Authority ceasing their empire. Change Your Mind being the original series finale of Steven Universe, as it was the end of the planned story arc they wrote back in 2011, took a very controversial route with its solution, and one that I feel was intentionally controversial. Because Steven Universe is a very complex story. A lot of the decisions that happen in the story, everyone is not going to be on the same page and agree with 100%. Yet, what makes Change Your Mind different from the rest is that for the first time in 160 episodes, we leave off on a definitive happy ending. Thus, it glorifies Steven's actions. And that's an important distinction to make. By glorifying Steven's actions and his ability to appease the diamonds, a lot of people feel that the show itself is also glorifying the diamonds, which many write off as ruthless, tyrannical, genocidal beings. And the last part isn't true. We actually have written proof that the diamonds weren't genocidal, but I'll touch on that in a moment. The focus of this video is that a lot of people are saying, yeah, the diamonds are redeemed, they're quirky good guys now, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The diamonds are not redeemed characters. When you look at a previously established redemption arc in the series, for example, the biggest one being Peridot, and compare it to how the diamonds are behaving in a post-Change Your Mind world, you cannot say they have good intentions and the best interests at heart. These are not redeemed characters, they are just no longer in the position of power they once were in. These characters have not truly learned a lesson. They are not truly remorseful for the actions they have committed. At least, not not yet. With the release of Steven Universe the movie, the series has a lot of eyes on it at the moment, and thus a lot of discourse around the franchise is resurfacing. Of course, the main one being, oh, this show is telling you to forgive literally Hitler. But what pushed me to make this video wasn't those critiques resurfacing, it was the counter arguments to those critiques that I feel need to be amplified on a larger platform. So while I will be giving my own thoughts, I'll also be building off of counter arguments that I feel need to be broadcasted and seen to a much larger pool of people. The first counter argument being a string of tweets in a thread that was liked by Ian Jones-Cordy himself. Why is Ian JQ relevant to any of this? Well, he was executive producer on Steven Universe for the first 3 seasons, he was heavily involved with the story, and he knew how Change Your Mind would turn out from the very beginning. And we'll also address a tweet of his when it comes to the genocidal aspect of everything. But anyways, this first thread comes from Hugh Trooper, who states, I hate when people say the diamonds were redeemed. They never showed real tangible change. Steven used his history with them to more or less manipulate them into being on his side. They only listen to Steven because he's one of them, and he knows that. He also knows it's bullshit when they pretend their morals have changed, but he knows they'll back off and let them enact the reforms they never would, so he just puts up with the fakeness. Bismuth's line from Lecture from a Homeworld basically sums up what his intention was. You're going into the lion's den, but you're a lion too. You gotta roar at them in their own language. And to build off this thread, we never see any characters ever forgive the diamonds or even warm up to them. And if you're making the assumption, oh well, the gems have to be fine of them now, they healed all the corrupted gems.
No!
I really don't see it being in character for any of the gems to forgive the diamonds just because, oh, they brought all their friends back. Why? Because the diamonds are the reason they got corrupted in the first place. They weren't doing them a favor, they were correcting their own mistake. A literal mistake that Blue Diamond remarks in Lecture for the Homeworld shouldn't have even happened. Steven even spells this out in Lecture for the Homeworld. He flat out yells at the diamond stating, you guys did this, you have to fix them, all of them. And guess what? In the diamonds doing that, they weren't redeeming themselves. You know what correcting your mistake is called? Consequences. The diamonds messed up. Bad. There's no doubt about that. Their attack on Earth didn't just affect the lives of Crystal Gems, it also affected the lives of Homeworld Gems, those who were fighting for the diamonds. This wasn't an act of redemption, because they didn't go out of the way to do something they didn't have to. This was simply owning up to responsibility. As for Steven manipulating the diamonds, well, I know the word manipulate and any form of it, it sounds malicious. It sounds as if it's naturally of ill intent. And while I don't think any of that suits Steven's actions, it is true. Look at the episode Familiar. Just listen to the song Familiar. Once Steven makes a connection that Pink Diamond was in the same spot he was in when he was a kid, that him and his mom are more alike than he ever imagined, he quite literally sings on how he's going to use that to his advantage to bring the diamonds together and get them to cease their terror across space. His exact words is showing them the error of their ways, but never once in this song or even throughout any of this art does he say, oh, we're gonna grill and picnic and have hot dogs and live happily ever after. Steven and the Pebbles literally made Pink Diamond's outfit because he knew that would butter them up, stating to Pearl that he wanted to be well dressed for the occasion. And before we move on, that's another thing a lot of people like to ignore when critiquing the diamonds. A lot of people who aren't fond of Steven Universe, and this does not go for everybody who has a problem with it or a problem with where the diamonds currently are, but people who particularly don't enjoy the show, who get enjoyment off of ripping on it, and try to spread that influence to anybody who either doesn't know anything about the show or who are fans of the show but not super invested, try to minimize it to just, Steven, this random kid, talk to these powerful matriarchs once and suddenly they're eating out of the palm of his hands. Which yeah, when you really bare bones it, that is how it looks. However, that's completely ignoring the part where Steven is the son, the descendant, the survivor of Pink Diamond. You know, the person the diamonds have been warning for thousands of years? I'm going to get dark for a second, but please just let me ask you a question. Think of the closest person in your family, someone who you truly love and adore and you don't want to lose. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's an uncle or aunt or even cousin. Now imagine they just died. Again, I know that's dark, but you would surely be impacted by that death. Now let's say some time has passed. Could be months, could be years. You still obviously have missed his relative. Let's say you're not over it yet, as the Diamonds weren't over Pink Diamond. Imagine if that relative who passed had a child you didn't even know existed, and they just showed up at your doorstep. Are you not gonna try to hear them out and listen to what they have to say? Are you gonna turn them away? Because if I was in that situation, I would definitely at least have a conversation. Now, I will admit, in the case this gets taken out of context, I know that's not a one-to-one parallel, but it is close to what the Diamonds dealt with. Sure, they assumed Steven was Pink Diamond, which I feel makes an even stronger case, but the fact remains, they lost someone very important to them, and then they discovered the person they were trying to kill, all this time, was heavily and deeply connected to that person they lost. Steven was in a position nobody else in the series was in. So he didn't just approach tyrants. He did, even if you hate to look at it this way, approached a family. A family that was still hurting, a family that was still processing, and a family that doubled down and tightened up more than ever to not only push out any sort of emotion, but to ensure nothing like this would ever happen again. Does this justify anything the Diamonds did? Of course not. But just to make it seem as if Steven approached the devil himself and was able to change everything because he made the devil blush is an extreme and gross exaggeration for the sole purpose of making the show sound worse than it is. Routing that out, just look at how the Diamonds act in the movie. It's been 2 years. Steven has dismantled the Empire. And yes, he has brought his definition of peace to the galaxy. Yet, how do the Diamonds interpret this? I mean, they quite literally have a song where they try to adore Steven, convincing him to stay on Homeworld, so if they were redeemed, they would definitely sing about how Steven has shown them the joys of life, right? How he's opened their eyes and really showed them a perspective they never considered before, right? Well, how come instead they sing about, well, Steven, you remind us of Pink Diamond, so you should stay, and also we did everything you asked us to. They're not grateful. They're not remorseful. Their perspective hasn't changed. They're quite literally, in song, complaining to Steven that they did everything they asked him to do, so they should get what they want. That's not redemption. Of course, when they're no longer a threat, it's gonna be treated in a somewhat comedic manner. Are you guys forgetting what network this is on? That this show was primarily a comedy before anything else? And I can see if the comedy was undercutting their moments or development, but the fact they don't have any real significant change negates any sort of critique that these people are redeemed. Hell, at the end of the film, when they arrive on Earth, White Diamond tries to play it off as if judging others is wrong, and it's played off as a joke with the purpose of showing that Steven is not buying into their BS. Yes, the Diamonds clearly aren't being sincere about their change. That doesn't mean they're gonna go colonizing planets or anything, but just because they're allowing crash gem fusion and not using a rejuvenator or shattering gems, doesn't mean that they're good people, or that they're redeemed, or that the show is saying you should forgive murderers. Because although they're not genocidal, they are cold-blooded murderers. But still, we'll touch on that soon, because I feel as if it's an important place to end the video on. Y'all know Robo Buddies, a very insightful retired content creator who without a doubt made the most constructive and actually well-researched Steven Universe rant video. Yeah, not only does she not like that video anymore, as she learned more about the animation process and how she got some things wrong, which no one should penalize her for, it was 2 years ago. She's learned a lot more about animation and Cartoon Network since then, but more on that will be touched on in an upcoming video by my friend What the Cheek. Check. I can't pronounce well. Anyways, Robo Buddies also shared a very interesting take on how the Diamonds weren't redeemed. That again, I feel needs to be seen on a larger platform, especially coming from someone who many try to look to and use their video as a platform of, oh, this show is definitely bad and not worth anyone's time. Robo said over on her Twitter, honestly, I don't think the Diamonds from Steven Universe were redeemed, and more so, I don't think that was ever the point. I think Change Your Mind was more or less about forgiving everyone, and more about how there are situations where it's better to make a compromise than to fight. Almost as if that was the entire point of the series. But Robo continues. And despite how babyish people make Steven Universe out to be, I think this message is actually pretty mature. Like, hey, instead of constantly fighting and asserting some sort of bravado, let's talk and work this out like adults. Moreover, the Diamonds don't get off scot-free. They are made to help repair all of the damage they caused. They do face consequences for their actions. If anything, shattering them would have been the easy way out. Justice would would be served, but nothing would be fixed, and the type of damage to hierarchy caused by shattering them would probably make more problems. On top of this, nothing about Gem Society would change if the diamonds were shattered. More likely, they would just be replaced by a new regime, one bent on avenging the old, and thus the cycle of violence continues. By actually having a conversation with them, Steven not only ended the Gem War, but managed to expose the flaws in the entirety of Gem Society, and began to work towards fixing them. He wouldn't have been able to do this if he shattered the diamonds. I guess this is a pretty lukewarm take at this point. I've just gotten kind of tired of the whole Steven Universe says to forgive murderers thing that everyone's been on, almost as annoying as fusion equals sex, which is also incredibly not correct. Now, before the movie, I definitely understand why a lot of people would feel as if the diamonds were redeemed. Again, if Change Your Mind was the ending, we would have been left on this ambiguous take of, oh, Steven and the diamonds are cool, White Diamond smiled at Steven, yada yada yada. Because if you asked me back in January, I would have argued, yeah, they were redeemed. I'd probably have a video up about it. So I'll be pretty amused if someone just doesn't watch this video, looks at the title, and tries to dig up that video, posting it side by side as a statement as if opinions can't change. But now that we're in a post-movie world, and we've seen the diamonds interact, to say they're redeemed is just not true. But here's what I think is really going on. I think a lot of people are substituting redeemed for likability. Because although the diamonds aren't redeemed, although they haven't shown any significant change, the fact the show can present them in a jokey manner kind of opens up the floodgates for more people to like the diamonds as characters. That people can enjoy their presence on screen. But they can't make genocidal tyrants likable. No one's ever liked villains ever in media. It's not like, there are people out there whose favorite characters are Joker, Slade, Lord Dominator, Bill Cipher, the list goes on, but these are genocidal tyrants, man. You can't be fond of them. Okay, yeah, no one talks like that, but still. I think it's just presenting the diamonds in a more casual manner that is rubbing people the wrong way, because they were antagonists, because they had an era of tension, because these were the people that were standing between Steven and peace. But genocidal... let's talk about that. So last year, after A Single Pale Rose aired, Ian Jones-Cordy tweeted something that was swiftly deleted. The original plot outline of the show that involved the rose quartz was pink diamond twist. Now I'm hoping at least a screen cap of this image was still up, but Ian Jones-Cordy remarked it was from 2011, and in the doc itself, you can see that it was last edited in, I believe, summer of about 2013. So yeah, quite some time before we would see all of this unfold on television. However, recently, as OKKO was wrapping up production, Ian Jones-Cordy tweeted something interesting that led to an even more interesting dialogue. Cleaning out my office. I have all these artifacts from early Steve Universe days. Pre-season 1, so these writing notes must be from 2013. I think we used almost all of this material. And from what I can read, the most important part we want to focus on is the past. The Gem's home planet was ruled by 4 diamonds: white, blue, yellow, and pink. Thousands of years ago, these diamonds launched an invasion on Earth. The Gems that invaded were surprised to find intelligent life. As they colonized Earth, they became fond of humans and started to question the invasion. Now we're gonna cut it off right there, but if you scroll down the replies a little bit, Ian was questioned by a fan. So I haven't noticed the part where it says they were surprised to find intelligent life. Does that mean all the planets that the diamonds had conquered beforehand had only plants and animals and all that? To which Ian Jones-Cordy responded, the universe is huge and intelligent life is very rare. Now look, you can read between all the lines you want and say, oh, well he did definitely say, no, okay, it's apparent from this outline and the clarification tweet that the diamonds only really encountered maybe just animals and plant life on other planets that they colonized. But Earth was the very first time they encountered someone like human beings, someone like us. So it's implied other alien species that could be humanoid like us, sentient and intelligent like us, and thus where the true issue of genocidal tyrants came into play never really existed. All this time, people have been working themselves up about an issue that didn't exist. The diamonds weren't genocidal. Sure, they killed their own, but it's not like they were on a warpath to destroy each and every gem. They had a system. Everyone fell into line into place. If you didn't fit in that place, you were shattered. Was it awful? Of course. Does that make them genocidal tyrants? No. In fact, we see them get the closest to genocide in That Will Be All, where Yellow Diamond demands for the remaining rose quartzes to be shattered, but Blue Diamond argues they're all we have left of pink. The fact they bubbled all these rose quartzes in the first place, instead instead of shattering them, even if there is an emotional attachment to pink, shows they aren't inherently genocidal. Sure, Yellow Diamond almost crossed that line, and yeah, that line almost being crossed because of grief doesn't excuse it, but she still didn't do it. And now you may think, why didn't they elaborate on that in the show? And I just gotta say, when did they exactly elaborate that they were killing multiple species? Namely sentient species who could have put up a fight? The closest thing we get beyond that will be all is Jungle Moon, where during Savani's little flashback dream sequence, Yellow Priyanka explains, it's an invasion, wipe them all out. But like, we see some species on Jungle Moon and none of them look humanoid. They all resembled animals. So the closest thing they're genocidal to is plant life and animals. Does that justify it? No. Does that make it right? No. Could that potentially be an allegory for how we as human beings have killed a lot of animals and a lot of animals have gone extinct and plant life is also in danger and also the world is like on fire? Yes. Now would you say we as human beings, or at least those who came before us, were genocidal for any animals that went extinct? For all the forests that were torn down? Well, I think that would be subjective. Now more than ever we have been combating the actions of the humans that are on the planet before us. People are vegan, people want to protect animal life and prevent animals from going extinct. So to them, yeah, the diamonds would still hit close to home. They would still be seen as irredeemable, which is fine, because they're not redeemed, and honestly, they would have to do a lot of development to get up to the point where they could be. But the fact of the matter is, Steven doesn't even want to be near them. He tells them he has his own life to get back to, clearly showing that they're not really a part of his life. At least not in the same way that Garnet, Amethyst Pearl, Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth are. Steven did his work and he bounced. Will he maintain contact with the diamonds? I'm sure. He's still the new pink diamond even if he doesn't live on Homeworld. But I do want to propose a question. For those who do slaughter animals, who have or do continue to the extinction of animals, of plant life, would you say they were irredeemable? Ultimately, I don't think the diamonds should be redeemed either way. I just think the position they are in right now isn't one where you can say they have been redeemed. Redemption is a word with a lot of weight to it that is kind of just thrown around now, especially with media like Steven Universe and other cartoons. But a huge message of Steven Universe that's hammered in over and over again is that all life is worth protecting, not just human beings, the environment, the plants, the animals. That's what the opening scene of It Could Have Been Great hammers in. That's what Lapis exploring the earth with Steven trying to fit in hammered in. It's what Peridot and the Rain hammered in. It's what Steven's diamond base being a greenhouse hammers in. That was the wrongdoing of the diamonds colonizing all these planets, harming animals, even if they were space animals, and literally killing planets, not just hypothetical people on them who we now know didn't really exist in the first place. So there you have it. I'm sure a lot of people will still walk away from this thinking, no, the diamonds were redeemed. No, they're genocidal tyrants. No, you're wrong. That outline doesn't debunk anything. And for you people, have a great life. But for everybody else, I want to know what you think. Are you a bit more open-minded? I'm not saying you have to be fond of the diamonds. I'm not saying love and adore them. I just wanted to comment on something that's been in my mind for quite a long time. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at Fox. We're also on Instagram. Welcome back to Crystal Clear! I'm Fox, and by this point in Steven Universe, every major gem in the series has received a reformation. Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, Peridot, Lapis, Bismuth, and another one in the movie with her new overalls. Even Jasper, having a brand new getup by the end of Change Your Mind. Now a mostly uncorrupted being, although she has her scars. Scars that, in my opinion, only make her look cooler. We can even view Steven's new outfit and growth spurt, #NetGang, as a reformation of his own. Yet there are some very important characters who were left out of this party. 3 actually. The Great Diamond Authority, Yellow Diamond, Blue Diamond, and White Diamond. This trio have been snubbed of a brand new look, and thematically, they truly do need one. So let's go over why we'll likely get this in Steven Universe the movie, the significance behind it, and even take some guesses on what these reformations could look like. And spoiler warning in case you're trying to steer clear of anything related to the movie. Kicking things off, let's address the obvious. For the diamonds to reform, they would need to get poofed, right? Correct! And this is a plot point that feels guaranteed for the movie. Something for this brand new antagonist, alongside any other enemies that could pop up in the series' future, is that there needs to be a reason why the diamonds are involved. Why they can't just walk right in and poof the gem. And personally, I think the only way to truly add stakes would be for the diamonds to be taken out and poofed. Obviously, in the moment, that alone would be crazy. The diamonds have never been poofed before. When all the crystal gems came at Blue Diamond one by one and smashed her ship on top of her, she still got back on her feet unfazed. So what better way for this new gem to really make an impression than to take out not just blue, but also yellow and white in the process? This could be through her outwitting the diamonds, through her developing her own technology, maybe amping up a gem to stabilize her. We do see in the trailer that she has a weapon that appears to be a scythe, that also functions as a gem to stabilize her as Steven makes contact with it. So maybe one swing of this bad boy is all it needs for the diamonds to go night-night for a while. It would not only put this gem in a league of her own, but it would give the diamonds a physical weakness. Something that Steven Universe as a story needs if it's going to continue past this point. The diamonds were the top of the chain, but I can't see the series ever continuing without a present threat. So to reassure the audience that the diamonds can't just save the day whenever they want, introducing ways they can be depowered will really keep things fresh, as long as it makes sense and isn't too much of a reach or anything that came out of nowhere. Having them be taken out of commission and bubbled early on to the film, only being recovered towards the end, will keep a consistent feeling of tension going throughout the film. It may sound a bit repetitive of Diamond Days, especially Change Your Mind, where the crystal gems are in that position, but here Steven wouldn't be actively trying to get them to reform. Once they're poofed, Steven is just focused on stopping the gem, not necessarily trying to rescue the diamonds or in a hurry to unbubble them. And hey, they could also just simply have a line where a gem mentions, the diamonds may take the longest to reform out of any gem they've ever met. They are the gem matriarchs. They have to make sure they look stunning. But let's move on into why the reformations are important. After the end of Change Your Mind, the diamonds are no longer considered to be antagonists. They certainly aren't perfect or without flaws. I mean, that was the entire point of Change Your Mind, but they're no longer the big bads that we're just itching to see face off with the crystal gems. They're allies and family now. Couple that with the fact that they're no longer living their assigned purpose, it opens the door for a makeover. Like, just take one look at the diamonds. Their designs convey almost everything you need to know about their personality and what parts they command on Homeworld. Yellow Diamond is militant. She was created to control all of Homeworld's armies, and that is perfectly illustrated through every last detail of her design. There's a reason we thought her hair was a helmet. There's the shoulder pads, the gloves, the very stylish boots. She has a very commanding presence. You look at Blue Diamond, you know she's a sad boy. It makes perfect sense that blue gems are diplomatic. Blue Diamond definitely moves with a purpose and is soft-spoken. And White Diamond's just God, and I mean, yeah, that is conveyed exceedingly well. But these are molds they no longer have to fit in Era 3. I doubt Homeworld will utilize any army. Diplomatic gems will still be needed, probably more than ever, but it won't be for colonizing planets. And White Diamond can still help gems and make everything better without forcing her will onto everybody through her own literal control. Guys, there's a reason why Pearl rocks a jacket now. When we met her, she looked like a ballerina. Now she's just the cool lesbian mom, because her character changed. So while the story already needs an out for the diamonds, it gives them the opportunity to pull off something that needed to be done. Whereas all these gems are being set free from their assigned purpose, the diamonds need to free themselves as well, having their appearance speak for themselves in an entirely new way. But what are some of the changes we could expect, or at least want to see? Well, something I definitely want to cite is the inspiration for this video. A tweet by Mike Cadashu, who is one of the incredibly talented thumbnail artists on this channel. Era 3 permanent changes I can dream for. Blue loses her eye bags, White has subtle pink blush, Yellow takes off her helmet? Yeah, again, see, fans are still confused on if it's hair or a helmet. And again, that speaks to how well Yellow Diamond was designed. The fact that mistake has made it all. Now, starting with Blue Diamond, I can definitely get behind the idea of her losing her eye bags. Now, I know there's debate out there on if it's eye bags or makeup, as every diamond has different eye makeup, but I mean, look at the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con poster. They look like eye bags. Maybe if the black line wasn't there, I could see it, but no, that's definitely drawn to be a part of her eyes. Something that's there, I guess, naturally, although they're gems, looking how whatever they want is natural to them, so, you know what? Gem clothing and appearance and makeup is just confusing. I don't know, Lars's pirate outfit is made out of gem clothes, go figure how that works. Either way, if Blue Diamond reformed, it would be the perfect opportunity to eliminate the sad from her appearance. While sure, I'm positive she'll always be the most emotional out of the diamonds, she has closure with Pink and a new bond with Steven. It would be nice to visually see her pick up the pieces and put everything back together, starting a new chapter in her life and moving on. Now, when it comes to an outfit change, I'm actually not sure how much I would change about Blue Diamond, although every gem reformation changes her clothing like a little bit. At the very least, Amethyst is a great example of this, so I can imagine them giving Blue Diamond's dress a bit of alterations, but I think it would actually be very cool if, at least when it comes to her hair, Blue actually reforms to look closer to her mural. It'd be a nice little wink and callback, how the designs of the diamonds changed over time, and I get it, the crew does not want to let go of her current hairdo. Something else that I found really neat, a month or two back, this fat was going around Reddit taking characters and inverting their eyes, and with Blue Diamond, her bags being inverted into more clear eye makeup actually suited her really well, so that would also be a very welcome change. With Yellow Diamond, I would definitely give her a different wardrobe, something that this shows Yellow is loosening up a bit. I mean, come on, you saw how much fun she was having at the ending montage and Change Her Mind? That's the Yellow I would love to see more of. And I think when it comes to an alter of her appearance, I would actually give her something close to Sardonyx. Like, you look at Sardonyx's basic design, it already kind of is similar to Yellow Diamond, the shoulder pads, the skirt, but it's a lot more of a casual attire. I definitely wouldn't give Yellow a tuxedo, maybe something more akin to a yellow business suit. Wouldn't give her a bow tie, but I hope you get the idea. Now, when it comes to White Diamond, there actually isn't much I wouldn't change about her appearance when it comes to design. I don't know, maybe just change up her cape or her shoes. She's already tall, does she really need heels? But something I would definitely add, which kind of goes hand in hand with my suggestion, is more color. I would love if White had a perpetual pink blush. Not only would that represent the moment Steven changed her mind and thus the entirety of Homeworld, but it would show she's embracing the colors she tried to repress, especially Pink Diamond. Adding yellows and blues somewhere would also be amazing. Maybe that's what they can do with her cape, make it a gradient of white, pink, yellow, and blue, but I think that's all White would really need, just the addition of some more color. Now you may be wondering, what about Pink Diamond? Yeah, she's gone, but what would her reformation look like? And well, she already did get a reformation when she decided to become Rose Quartz. She already knew of all the wonderful ways you can express yourself through your appearance, how you can become someone entirely new. Yeah, I know that's not the most exciting answer, but hey, she was already ahead of the curve. If anything, the diamonds have to catch up. Ultimately, I truly do believe reformations are in the Diamond's future. We've had them as antagonists, we've had them in these outfits for the entirety of the series, although there have been slight alterations here and there, except for White as she popped up at the very end, and with the original roles in the narrative serving their purpose, a makeover is only appropriate. But as always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? What would you add, or something you wouldn't want to see at all? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at Vox. We're also on Instagram.
Hello everyone, my name is Tom and welcome to this quick chat on the Roundtable where we talk about a specific topic in animation. Since the Steven Universe movie, people have been talking a lot about a lot of things, and one of the primary subjects being brought up is the diamonds. Who are they? Are they good, bad? What does the show want us to feel towards these characters that were just recently treated as the biggest villains in the universe? Are we just supposed to forget everything that they've done and accept them as good people? Well, let's examine this a bit. In the Steven Universe movie, the diamonds were portrayed as positively as they've ever been, and in contrast to what we've come to know them as, it feels a bit jarring. Are we now expected to open our arms and accept that these characters are good? I'm going to say no. Despite being portrayed much more positively than ever before, and now aligning with the protagonists of the story, we aren't being expected to accept them with open arms. No part of the narrative is saying that you have to like the diamonds now, or even that you should. In fact, it's being clearly conveyed that the diamonds are not perfect or morally righteous characters now. It's clear that they're trying to appease the people around them, and all of their moments of "we're good people now" come across as extremely disingenuous, and that's the point. That being said, I think there is a valuable lesson in this story between Steven and the diamonds, because the reason that the diamonds are even trying to change is because of Steven. It's not because they want to be better, they did not see the error of their ways, it's because Steven wants them to be better, and they don't want to push Steven away the way that they feel they pushed away Pink Diamond. Which is obviously not the best reason or why you should try to improve yourself, but they are changing. When you take people who need to change this badly, does it matter more that they're changing for the right reasons, or that they're changing to begin with? Even if the Diamonds are kinda two-faced, is that not at least an improvement from where we were at? Here's the thing you have to ask yourself. What was Steven realistically going to do with the Diamonds? Lock them up? Steven as a teenage boy wasn't going to come in, overthrow the Diamond Authority, and restructure the society of Homeworld to exist without them. And I don't think that there was anyone else who could realistically do that. Also, how are they gonna lock them up, practically? Like, Steven and the Crystal Gems can't force the Diamonds to do anything because none of them are even a match for Blue or Yellow, let alone White Diamond. And for that reason, as well as many others, he wasn't going to kill the Diamonds like some stories would have him do. But also consider that a big part of Steven Universe is the educational aspect. Steven Universe focuses so much on talking things out and de-escalation because they want to teach their audience that it is possible to be more diplomatic and empathetic even when it's hard, because that's how you solve your problems in real life. If someone wrongs you in life, then you generally can't kill them or try to exact punishment for the sake of justice. But what you can do in those situations is try to communicate and reach an understanding to make things easier in the future. People generally have a very knee-jerk reaction to problematic behavior, to push those guilty into exile. But by doing that, you aren't solving the problem, you're just pushing it out of view. Those people still exist, and they're still toxic, and probably going to get more toxic. That is, unless someone takes the time to guide them down a better path. Not to say that it's your responsibility to change a person, or that everyone is capable of providing that guidance, but if you're in a position to make someone a bit less awful, then that's something that Steven Universe wants to promote through a character who has the qualities to inspire that change in other people. In some ways, Lars was a much smaller scale example of this. When the series started off, Lars was a very unpleasant and draining person to be around, and this was clearly a result of deep-rooted insecurity and a fear of letting people in. Something that Steven was capable of changing over time to make Lars a more genuine and compassionate person, even if it took a very long time. Though I can't say whether or not that change was partially inspired by trauma, because Steven quite literally got that homie killed. Like, straight murdered, on an alien world. Like, imagine you got abducted and taken to the back roads of Serbia and straight clocked, and now you're just like, okay, I'll be a better person, jeez. Right after I'm done being a pirate. But real talk, the purpose of Lars' story was to introduce the idea that it's worth it to treat people with kindness and compassion, even when it might be hard. That those people aren't hopeless and can be a lot more pleasant if the right person helps them get there. Now with the Diamonds, we're seeing that same idea but in a different situation. Obviously the Diamonds are guilty of a bit more than being angsty, insecure teenagers. There are serious implications to what they've done, so as a result, the idea of just be nice and they'll change, which seems to be the message on the surface, is far-fetched and even problematic to a lot of people. But we have to consider this idea. Steven is in a very specific position, where he not only has the opportunity to help the Diamonds change, but may even feel some responsibility to do so, because they are technically his family, and not only that, but they are willing to listen to him, and seemingly only him. Steven has influence over them, so imagine if your grandparent was an oppressive dictator, and you were able to convince them to change for the benefit of everyone living in their society. Would you not do that? Or even, since people always bring up the Nazi analogy, if you had a family member that was starting to be radicalized by the alt-right, and you had the ability to guide them away from that, if nothing else but for the reason that there would be one less Nazi in the world, thanks to you, would you honestly just cut that person off to let that ideology fester unchecked? It's a different story if it's someone who isn't going to listen to you, and you're not going to get through to them. If you're able to do what Steven did and give awful people a reason to stop acting awful, and at least reduce the negative impacts that they've had on the world, is that something that you shouldn't do? Some of this is lost in translation, I think, because it's easy to miss the changes to Steven's character post-time skip. When you look at Steven for most of the show, he's a very naive, overly optimistic, and passive character. He seems like someone who is blindly kind, and would come to a conclusion that he can fix a toxic, awful person if he's just nice to them. But that's not actually who Steven is, especially at 16. Steven has been through a lot. He has realized his biggest role model was a far from perfect person who left him with a lot of her problems. He watched his friend literally die. He was nearly murdered by his grandmothers, and that's only what I can think of off the top of my head. Innocent little Steven, who is always nice to everyone, has been through it. And you can definitely see that now in the fact that Steven is just as willing to treat the world around him with kindness, but he comes across as a bit more blunt, straightforward, and likely to challenge others than he once was. he comes across as more serious and goofy, which is very new for him. Which maybe that has come from teaching the diamonds to be better and learning that he has to be more stern and assertive to get through to them. My point is, Steven isn't the same kid he used to be. He's mature enough to understand that the diamonds have done some really bad things, and he's not asking people to forgive them for that. In fact, we never once see Steven expect the crystal gems or anybody else to accept the diamonds now that they've started to change a bit. And even he's not under the impression that they've changed that much. But there's progress. Even if it is happening slowly and the diamonds are nowhere near redeemed yet, they've gotten better in small ways and their negative impact has been greatly reduced. And that's the idea. Maybe people want to see some type of retribution or consequences for what the diamonds did, but honestly that's not realistic as of right now. Like, again, all of the diamonds are way more powerful than any of the gems. I doubt that they're sorry for what they've done, so they aren't going to willingly accept punishment for it. However, if Steven can manage to change them and their values, then they will regret the things they've done, and even if Steven can't do that, he will at least change them enough to make it so the past atrocities of the Diamond Authority may never happen again, which I think on its own is worth trying for. But what do you guys think? Was there a better way to handle the diamonds after Change Your Mind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Roundtable Vids, or me on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram at TomEPQM. And if you want to see more of me, be sure to check out Let's Talk with Tom, or watch my latest Runaway Club examining the relationship between video games and cartoons. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.
Welcome back to Crystal Clear. I'm Ostrich Vlogs, and one of the most intense scenes in all of Steven Universe came from Change Your Mind, when White Diamond forcibly removes Steven's gemstone from his body, creating two separate beings. The Steven we know and love, becoming organic Steven, and the gemstone forming into pink Steven. However, everything about the sequence flashed before our own eyes. Although I loved how they took advantage of the Steven-only perspective. Since there were two Stevens, for a moment, there were two perspectives, which Rebecca Sugar storyboarded this entire scene, and you can absolutely see that through Steven's expressions. Anyways, I want to break down this form. What does it mean? Just how powerful are they? These are the questions, and we're going to get answers. Ready, set, go. First off, who is Pink Steven? Pink Steven is the embodiment of Steven's gemstone without necessarily being Steven. His powers, his strength, all of it is within the gem. When Steven and Pink Steven are cleaved from one another, Steven himself as a pure organic is left weakened, pale, and without saying it outright, dying. There's reason to believe that if Steven's organic half was left in this condition, that would have been it. He likely would have died rather quickly. Now, all gems have a personality, their own quirks. In terms of behavior, they're not that far off from human beings. So why is Pink Steven emotionless? Well, it's because Steven as an entity is different from all other gems. As elaborated in Guide to the Crystal Gems, gems as a species are supercomputers. The best way I can describe this, Pink Steven is the operating system, while Steven himself is all the things that makes a PC, well, a personal computer. The shell, all of the applications, shortcuts, the memory cache, the cookies. Essentially, that's organic Steven. With only the operating system left, Pink Steven lacked all personality. Rebecca Sugar revealed on the Steven Universe podcast, this emotionless conduct is why she modeled Pink Steven completely off of Steven's default model sheet. So there are some meta layers to it. This could also be why the gem still retains the previous regenerations of Pink Diamond and Rose Quartz. Even though the operating system is a different version now, there were previous versions on that gemstone. Pink Diamond was Windows XP, while Rose Quartz was Windows Vista. But Steven, he's Windows 10. Side note, let's use this time to discuss why Steven could tap into Pink Diamond's memories. Let's compare it to coding and video games. Now, I know very little about coding, but people always find hidden files and scrap content that was once in the game. Even if they're not present in the final product we play, those segments can't be removed, lest it break the entire game. This is why people can also data mine demos, figure out what might be in the full version. Removing all of Pink and Rose's memories may have complicated bringing Steven into the world, at least without any hiccups. Pink Steven also seems to behave in a similar fashion to that of a Hollow Pearl, both devoid of emotion and initially speaking in a monotone voice. However, let's move over to his powers. Now, Pink Steven could be the most powerful, non-fusion gem in existence, and explains as to why all of Steven's fusions are so powerful. For example, Sunstone being able to push back the entire Diamond mech. Assumably, Pink Steven would have all of Steven's abilities unfiltered, more powerful than ever. Lacking Steven's personality, personality, Pink Steven seems to lack any and all restraint. When it came to both Steven and his mother, their emotions subconsciously held them back from doing any serious damage to their opponents. Yet Pink Steven was powerful enough that a single scream formed a crater around Steven, cracking the steps of White Diamond's stairs and knocking her off balance. Considering we all assumed White Diamond is the most powerful gem in existence, pulling that off effortlessly is not an easy feat. Pink Steven's most notable ability has to be his shield, which, instead of appearing even remotely similar to Rose Quartz's shield, it appears faceted, reminding me of polygons. I have no doubt this is also a consequence to Pink Steven lacking his organic half's personality and emotion. The shield, by extension, has no personality or stylization as a result, so I'm not really convinced that this is what Pink Diamond's shield looked like. White Diamond doesn't seem surprised by the shield, but she also was aware that Pink Diamond masqueraded as Rose Quartz, so she would be aware that Steven possesses a shield regardless. This shield is no joke. Pink Steven manages to reflect and nullify White Diamond's attacks, not even being fazed by White and her 6 pawns attacking all at once, completely knocking them all on their feet from redirecting the force of it all. This actually seems like a perk to being liberated from the organic half. Without having to worry about exhaustion, Pink Steven can just throw up shields like it's nothing, as if he has an infinite source of energy. Pink Steven seems to have the native instinct of reforming with his organic half, only verbally communicating once, and emoting once he's in the arms of his organic half. So this also puts into question if Pink Steven can survive without his other half. Would he also perish after a certain amount of time? Because it would be awkward if when Steven croaks, this Steven just forms and just is like, hey guys, what's up? I would wager that Pink Steven does need his other half, and that when Steven eventually passes away, that'll be the end of his legacy, of Pink Diamond's legacy and Rose Quartz's legacy. Unless he has children, that's all she wrote. Or all he wrote? Gem pronouns! All of this may allude to Pink Diamond being the most powerful diamond, if her or Steven just let go of their emotional restraint. But wrapping that all up, I'm sure the question in everyone's mind is, will we see him again? Now, this is hard to say. I'm not sure the circumstances would ever align for such a thing to happen. You know, Steven's gem being removed from his body. Perhaps the next antagonist will know, hey, those gemstones are their weaknesses. Just plop it out, and he's toast. However, Pink Steven mainly seemed to serve the purpose of telling us as an audience Steven is not his mom. He's just himself. So I'm not sure there would ever be a reason to bring Pink Steven back. He definitely feels like a one and done. But on that note, perhaps Steven can work his way into tapping into this raw energy in the future. Because we need to make one thing clear. Pink Steven is not a last-ditch transformation. It's a consequence to cleaving one entity into two beings that should never be separated. It kind of reminds me of Naruto and Kurama. And just like how Naruto was able to harness Kurama's energy and get some pretty awesome transformations out of it, I think Steven may be able to do the same with his true gem half. But at the same time, would he even want to? Steven's a pacifist, so I don't know if he would ever want to use that energy. I wouldn't be surprised if Pink Steven's potential terrifies Steven. But what do you guys think? How do you feel about Pink Steven, and do you want to see him again? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for my own hot takes, you can find me at evokes. We're also on Instagram. Special thanks to Art with Coda for creating an awesome thumbnail. For more of his wonderful art, you can find him on Tumblr and Instagram at Art with Coda, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Link down below in the description. Help the Roundtable grow by either becoming a member of the channel or supporting us on Patreon. Get access to exclusive perks. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please throw it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable so you never miss any of our Steven content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Evokes out.